Hello. Welcome to the party. I think the fair board is gonna have representation up here for citizens. I did citizens input.
Oh, yeah, he's coming.
Broderson called me last night, I wanted to know if he could, and I said, "He's more than welcome."
Good. So I'll be there at the end.
Next week.
I don't know if Martha and Colin are working on the land management agreement.
Well,
We probably need to
at
get,
one point in time, she asked me questions about it when we were talking about something else.
oh, okay.
Ringer is off.
I came across some notes when KR called me about getting paid. So that's what kind of spurred on that.
Brilliant.
And I'm sure they still want paid, but.
I don't know either. Do you, speaking of that, do you have, I thought we'd have a Gary Bruce Junior's phone number.
Probably.
I thought I did, but I don't.
Oh, okay.
Summer game.
I gotta
Did you see
tell him
that?
he needs to receive it.
Yeah.
CRP ground that he's been farming.
Oh, okay.
Is
it flagged or staked out or something?
He should receive it.
I don't care.
His cost, his profit off it all these years.
Hey, I'm at 3%, 3% for our board here.
In my eyes.
But if they
Yeah.
don't agree with us, like they did. with the-
What land is that out at the county farm?
Yeah, very important.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Already started. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Yes,
Is there any conflict of interest? I believe so. Madam Auditor, could you please read the minutes?
January 17th, 2023, the Board of Supervisors met at 9 AM with Ty Rosberg, Chairman, presiding, members present, Hayden, Rosberg, Schultz, Dozark, and Mulbauer. Minutes of the previous meeting read and approved. The board approved resignation of Rosario Fernandez, interpreter in the Public Health Department. Board approved change of status for Paulette Lingle, hospice social worker in the Public Health Department. The board approved change of status for Jamie Brumman in the Public Health Department. Board approved clerk of court fees for December 2022. During citizens report, Steve Holt, representative of the state of Iowa, had a discussion over the phone with the board. Some highlight topics were property tax bill, House File 1, local option sales tax, compensation board legislation, eminent domain, mental health, and the pipeline position for our county. The board met with Shani Bonner of the CDC for a quarterly tourism report. Motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Mulbauer, to approve crime policy renewal from EMC Insurance with the TAMS agency. Motion passed unanimously. Motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Dozark, to approve the RFP for server room for the city center building for $51,922 to Advanced Communication Services. Motion passed unanimously. Motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Hayden, to approve the following resolution 2023-7, the compensation board recommendation. The board moved, it doesn't say 80%, but it was an 80% decrease. Voting aye, Rosberg, Mulbauer, Schultz, Dozark, and Hayden. Motion passed unanimously. A discussion was made by the board with the tax credit for voluntary emergency services providers. No action was taken at this time. Discussion was made by Colin Johnson, county attorney, to the board about funding for carpal case file software for the county Attorney's Office. A motion was duly seconded. The board adjourned at 11:42 a.m. Agendas for the next meeting are posted and available at the courthouse on Friday, 4:30 p.m. preceding the next meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any additions or corrections to the minutes from the board? I didn't. It sounded pretty good to me. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, supervisors reports. Anybody have a busy week and would like to start?
I'll start
Jean?
just because.
Okay.
Yesterday I had my first public health meeting. Went very well. A lot of things were discussed. They passed around the document that kind of explains their Board of Health plan, which is very useful to me for my first time meeting to kind of see what the different areas that they do services in. We went over that, she read it kind of word by word a little bit to help us out. I think that was useful to me. We also got their actual income and expense by period. And if you notice, they were way up in expenses and down in revenue. Some of that's generated because in hospice, they're short a couple of nurses, so they're not seeing as many staff. But I would think that expenses would go down because they wouldn't have the wages. So that seems a little off kilter, but it could be how their grants come in and things like that too. So one thing that I've always learned about public health budgets and their expense reports is they're all over the board. And it's because of the way their funding comes in. And it's hard for somebody that doesn't do it daily to really grasp it, You just have to look at it and hope it levels itself out.
Is the majority of their income from Medicaid? Is that?
Hospice is their income producing department. Cash cow, that's what they call it, is their cash cow.
So are most of those though paid by, is it private families in that are paying the hospice? Is it
Hospice
private
is
insurance that is
mostly,
paying that?
yep, and it's just 100% covered. Medicaid is, and it's broke down a little bit, not maybe in this report, right here. I'll kind of tell you where that income is coming from a little bit. So, people that like numbers, these things are great, to kind of, but, just like anything else, you could have a month that somebody that was supposed to pay you didn't pay you, and they pay you the first of the next month. It's going to make that month look down. And so the numbers aren't a true snapshot of exactly what's going on. I think at the end of the year, it should be a little bit closer to where are we at with income and
Does their
expense.
fiscal year match ours, or is this theirs different?
Yes,
Or-
it would
Same.
same ours.
Okay.
How do they run it? It comes in quite a bit anymore. Is that kind of?
That I haven't really memorized the report, I just kind of skimmed over it a little bit. Hickams,
Stamp.
It will when you motion to approve it.
Okay.
so yeah, I'd say it's pulling its own, but Hickams now is more counties,
Yeah.
so it's kind of changed a little bit in
It
its
still,
dynamics
Hickams
also.
makes us no money. It's all in and out, right?
It's an in
It
and
pays
out,
for some staffing, but
right,
some staffing wouldn't be there if we didn't have the Hickams program.
Not like hospice.
So what program?
Hospice is
Hickams, Harrison, Crawford, Carroll, Monona,
Okay.
Shelby.
Shelby,
But
was a.
now
It's
there's
more
consortium.
than that.
now there's a Calhoun in it.
Yeah, it's more than that, but they didn't change the name, I don't
There-
think.
Yeah, they are not changing the name, but there are 2 more counties that they've added to it. And so, we talked a little bit about
It's all-
staff, how come we've got somebody that starts and then we're really wanting to get a full staff. But I can pass this all around and anybody that wants to decipher, out of it. It was a good meeting. We had Carrie Kersey there again from Carroll. They're not gonna raise their fees this year, but are pretty sure they'll have to next year. She's still concerned about not concerned, the housing development out on 12th Street, having to approve a septic system inside the city limits. She had no choice but to do it, but she's certainly hoping that the developer and the city and DMU come to an agreement on how to get the services out there so we don't have all these homes on private septic systems within the city limits.
It's on the
That's
new
Chewy's,
property
yeah,
that
Chewy's,
just
we
bought.
brought all that dirt in.
Oh,
There,
oh,
so she's required to approve that septic system application if they're more than 200 feet from the city sewer. And they are, so she had to prove it, but she really is just so, just not within
Where are
her.
those at?
You know, on 12th Street, right across from the golf course. that
12th
was
Avenue South.
12th
Yeah, all
Avenue
the
South,
hospital
where Jay Martin built his house.
Right, right.
Jay
right.
Martin has a septic system.
Okay,
And
okay.
she really, you know, with some properties right inside Denison on North Main, there's one house that has a septic system. And what happened a couple of years ago is the person who was living in the house went to sell it, didn't say that there was a septic system. And Carrie and I both were, because I was involved in that deal. Can't believe the people that owned it didn't know they had a septic system. So it gets all the way through, ready to close, and they don't have their septic paperwork because you can't transfer the deed without this. So it just makes no sense to anybody even question if there's a septic
I didn't
system.
know that we're within the city limits.
There
of
is, up
Oh,
on
yeah.
North Main, there's a little house that has a
Okay.
septic system that, so she really would like to encourage the city of Denison, DMU, and the developer to get together before any more houses go up, because she has no choice but to approve that application. So she brought that up again. So it was a good meeting. Once again, and I'll talk about this, the city center, you know, they always want to have an update on their city center, where it's going, when they can move in, how we're coming. And I really had no real update on that for them. I hate it. I'd like to get you two guys in there so you can kind of look at the RFP and kind of see what they're planning on changing. Seeing if, you know, I just think before that RFP comes through, I'd like to have you have eyes on that building, so you know what's kind of going on a little bit there. They've got a grant to get a sub freezer. That's something they need for some of their medications. They have a grant that'll take care of it. It's 70 degrees negative is how cold it will go. So they were gonna take it out to the hospital because they didn't have room for it. And I suggested they just take it right up to the city center, put it there instead of taking it to the hospital and moved it in. It's a county building. Why not just have it there? It's easier for them to have access. And so we need to start using that building. And they really, I think they could start moving their supplies in there and start moving their storage and start getting that building uncomplicated so that we could possibly show it to somebody if because there was I told you, you know, that there had an interest, somebody that wanted to buy it. And I just didn't feel right showing it because we really don't know when we can sell it. And it's got a little path through every place. It's just,
It always looks like a hoarder's house.
it makes me
You haven't
claustrophobic.
seen a hoarder's house yet.
Well, it is. The Geppies used to be pretty good.
We watch TV, don't we? But I just want to keep that moving.
Yeah.
And so the question was, you know, what's the holdup? And it's getting somebody to bid and to get a RFP that the electrical is in detail. So I told them that we would bring that up again. But anyways, I'll pass these numbers. Here, you forgot the most important number. What are you gonna pass? Yeah, we'll put that in there. Also, I would like to get our Caitlin Bishop, who is the Rolling Hills Crawford County advocate coordinator for the mental health. And so they've come up with this really nice little pamphlet, which, because as somebody who doesn't work with it, every time they talked about the mental health services, the crisis centers, what each crisis center does, when they say mobile crisis assessment, what the criteria is to get into that, how long you can stay, who's gonna see you, crisis stabilization, crisis residential services, 24-hour holding, and subacute, you know, just what that verbiage all means. So what they're trying to do is get these brochures in the schools, at the jails, you know, different places, so people understand where you can go for these services. And I think it's a great start to try to help using these centers. Caitlin and I plan to go and visit the Siouxland Mental Health Center unannounced. I told everybody.
You've announced it.
I know it. I said it silently, so, but I'll pass this around for those that kind of have questions about what these two different centers do. Along with that, and Caitlin had sent me, because I wanted to know, my question was, how many of the 6 people that they saw that was in the report were actually Crawford County people? How many people from Crawford County, because that's the county I serve, are using these facilities for the amount of money that we put in towards it. And she did send me that information and she was willing to come today, but it wasn't on the agenda. And I just think it's gonna be a better conversation if she's on the agenda and she can speak.
So what was that number?
I have to pull it up and read. Well, no, I have to pull it up this way and read it. I can pull it up. It was like not that used. I'd have to break it all out into the different centers. You know, 4 went here and 4 went there, and you know, not big numbers, but it has explanations to it. But what I don't like about that booklet is every one of them ends with that they don't show aggressive or behavioral deals. If you know anybody that's suffering from a mental breakdown, they're going to appear to be aggressive. And so if you can't get into the centers, if you appear to be aggressive, then that's when you're going to jail, or that's when you're going, and jail doesn't want them and the hospital doesn't want them.
Jail
And
doesn't
so-
no good either.
So that's kind of where every one of them ends. And so if
I
you
mean,
want,
if
I
they're
will
not a criminal.
print this report and pass it on, because my turn is probably about up, but I will pull up that email. She sends it to me in, I don't know, I think she sent it to me in a text message. I'll pass my phone.
I'm just curious, because those are good numbers to know.
They are, that's why I asked for them. And so I figured I don't want to want to steal her thunder since she's coming next week.
Right, that's fine.
Yeah.
So you dig into more of that.
Yeah.
Gina, to go back, is there any discussion on the board members in the board?
No.
No. I think we need to.
And I called the chairman afterwards because there was a response in the paper.
I don't think most of these are even,
Did?
sorry.
That's okay, no.
I don't think most of these are equipped to handle somebody that's even moderately aggressive.
You're exactly right.
But we should have something that is.
That is exactly what I'm trying to drill into, to find out where that person who is just anxious and needs somebody, you know, and appears, because what happened at one of the centers, I was told, is that someone who did not appear to be aggressive at admission got aggressive and broke one of the people's nose, that wasn't handled to handle an aggressive person. And so now they're very leery, very apprehensive, gun shy. So that's a challenge. I do agree it's a challenge, but it's also for all the people we have on staff, we would hope that there was an aggressive behavioral specialist who
We need
could be
to-
called in.
We won't have. any
I don't know,
budget stuff
I don't work, I don't
ready,
walk them out on their shoes, but
As long
I
as the
do,
board chair is kind
I'll
of
get this
job,
email pulled up.
or at least it was.
Get a hold of them? Okay.
I zipped through it real fast and then her and I agreed that she would come in person next week. And so you guys can ask her questions also. And here it is, right here. It's a summary.
Thanks, Gene.
You're welcome. My
See, when
turn.
I was going through the budget, since we're on public health and other health things, I called over to talk to Karen. I couldn't get a hold of Lynn. There was a $8,000 bill on Eventide, but Karen was pretty sure that was hospice stuff, so that'll be passed through.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
I will-
That was when my biggest question on the budget was if that's what that was. And she made me feel pretty confident that's what it was.
Then they're also recommending 5% raises for the employees.
How many?
5%.
I recommend.
Did you tell them we did 3?
I did. But it was, you know, we can take care of that in here.
Yeah.
I have to remember what hat I'm wearing at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So directly serve 23 Crawford County residents and coordinated funding of 5 residents.
Gotcha.
That's for the month of December. Under 18, she breaks it kind of down in adults.
This is for you.
I assisted with 4 individuals who recently graduated from Stepping Stones. Individuals. So it's a short report. Maybe if I wish I knew how to print from her, Terry. How would I print this? Stop. It's not me, it's my machine. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't
Don't make me say.
I'll watch
Is
you.
this the
I
thing you're
want,
wanting
yeah, I
to
want to
print?
print this stuff so we can pass that out so that they can review
Sure,
it
that
and
was
have
easier.
questions for next week. Okay?
Gregory brought them in this morning.
You just forward it to us.
Well, if you're like me, you like to circle right in the margins and.
Come on.
See,
It's coming.
it's not me.
All folders are up to date.
Oh, and I also had a lot of calls about the pipeline. They honestly believe that there is gonna be a booster. They're not calling it a pump station, they're calling it a booster station. They're taking the word pump out of it.
So it's cheaper to tax.
I don't know. There was some talk of 4.2 acres being
Yeah, we'll have to
purchased
fix it, though.
by the summit.
Stands too.
So we're working on nailing that down a little bit with if it really is a booster, because last week when I called and Katie said, oh, I don't, know, it's just the valves had been moved. The word booster station is coming into play in some,
Pull it back up again.
well, how would I know where it was?
It's your machine.
No, it's the county's machine.
Question is, do we want to stop, are we trying to stop pipeline or?
Nope.
I mean,
Nope. No, I don't think
I mean, if they wanted, if they purchased 4 acres of ground from Eugene and they.
Nope.
I mean, just hypothetically, I mean,
the purpose
What
of
is
knowing
it?
that ahead of time as a county would be for our insurance purposes.
our
And,
insurance purposes.
well, for insurance for the county and how we're gonna protect our citizens and
Which you guys at
But we have to have insurance.
Percy?
We don't carry, we don't, yeah,
Oh,
we
no.
don't carry insurance on carbonics or Anderson ethanol.
Or even natural gas pipeline. I don't think we'd have to have insurance. That's just my
for a young
assumption.
name, Caitlin with the
I'm
C.
not an
I
expert
was
on
just
that.
like, C
You're
words.
probably closer than I am.
I don't see why we would want it.
Carolyn.
What,
The
you
thing
know,
is, the more, if they do, if that is the case, that's just more tax revenue for us. It's building a. And Dwayne was showing me how Dennison now is doing, it's about a 10-year tax abatement on new houses.
just
Inside
about
the
10
city
years.
limits.
Yeah, within the city limits, 5 years, 100%, and then the next 5 are step,
Really?
yeah.
Well, you gotta do something.
So, I mean, and then with the state doing all they're doing with taxes,
They ain't gonna have any
how are we
money.
supposed to provide services with no more, with
Send it to
less
Michelle.
revenue?
She'll kind of.
Yeah, well, we brought that up.
The only way can
I don't
get
see
them
the
is when
printer
those
on there.
See?
We need to have Jake put it back on there, because it used to be on
One
there.
thing I wanna know is, are we wanting to move forward with something that protects city limit lines? You know, I mean,
I think this one might, I'm afraid to say, but this one might be too far along for us to.
well, I'm not gonna argue that. I'm just saying, do we say that we're gonna move forward, have them come in and do what was the agreement we had with the Scout?
Construction agreement or something,
Yeah.
else, you know what? And move forward, I probably should move forward for future things, but
That's my point.
I think this one's, good.
What are we doing?
I think the train's on the tracks and it's starting to roll.
Well, there's no doubt that if we come back with a 2-mile thing, we're gonna end up in court.
Right, and then, I'm not discrediting the 4 or 5.
I don't mean no
people that are
win.
always here continuously wanting us to stop it, but
Yeah,
how
I'm
much
not
effort
even
do we,
thinking- I'm not
how
even,
much effort do we, and lawsuit risk do we put ourselves in?
I mean, I
The city
understand
of
their part.
Schleswig was seriously opposed to this, but I've never seen one of them down here, so it's kind of like, they must be okay with it, because they got the most to lose with their development. They're not even, haven't heard one word. I've been up to Schleswig, talked to the mayor and city councils at different things. Nobody's ever said
Anything.
one word about it. So are we?
Do they know? Do they realize what's
Oh,
coming?
sure,
You'd have to live under a rock not to know.
right.
Well, there's quite a few rocks out there.
So I just wonder how much, if we're putting way too much effort to something that, 4 people, not here again, don't want to discredit them, or 10 or whatever that number is, but it's a small minority.
We didn't know.
Yeah, and theirs is mostly on the site and safety side, and gosh.
And eminent
what can-
domain is what. they're really
Eminent domain, but, and actually, their best fight then is be down there, at the State House,
Yep. So
because they already kind of trumped us. What was the year? Somebody just said it,
1985 or something like that.
yeah, 85, that sounds right. I mean, they kind of trumped us on that, which that's me, and there's some people down there willing to fight for you. That's where I'd be every week.
At least make it look like.
I mean, not to say that they can't come here, sure they can come, but I don't know
That's
what,
how you play.
I don't think we get much voice here on the safety aspect. But I do believe that we could protect city boundaries, at least in the future, if it doesn't work. But you know, they'd take us to court, but that doesn't mean they would win.
Correct.
And you know, there's things that I've invested in, like paying farmers to let me run through. I haven't done that, but I'm saying, things I've invested in and it wasn't a good investment and I had to reinvest.
Right.
I'm doing that right now, but and that's kind of the way of business. So I mean, you know, we could potentially win protecting our city development. So that's the only thing. And if Schleswig don't care, then maybe.
And then on the same token, as far as that. From Dennison's coming
I've never
here.
had, well, I've had the CDC is, you know, I mean, that's one of the things that they've asked me about and we've talked about, and I've told them that we're trying to figure out what we want to do. So that's the only people though from Denison, which that would be the primary ones of interest in that. But like from the city hall, I've not had anybody. Yeah, not even, you know, and John Grandson's their rep on the CDC, and he never said anything.
All right, we're printing it.
So maybe you're right, Cal. I mean, maybe but I still would like to do something for future. I mean, it's just like with the pipe or the windmills. Let's not get caught with our pants down twice.
Just seeing enough of them already. I'm so excited
I
about it.
know, like about it, just get somewhere.
You found it too?
Yeah. Anyway,
Now we gotta get new chairs.
did you break your chair?
That's why we can have nice things.
You did you? That's why we can't have nice things.
Finally gave up.
Kids
There she
bouncing
goes.
around like.
Feel like I'm driving
You
a
look
Peterbilt now.
You look normal, don't worry.
These are actually two-sided. It gives you a little preview of what she's gonna talk about next week and gives you a chance then to possibly ask questions about things and that should help us.
Oh, this is the young lady that's
This
gonna be
is,
on
yeah,
next week.
it's Kayla with a C, Cayly Bishop. And she actually is housed in Buena Vista County. She's an employee of record over there. Currently, her office is back where Luis used to be Veterans Care. It's a very small office, but that's where she would meet with clients. That's where the city center is going to come in very useful. That she actually has an office that she could see with more than one person in. The other disadvantage of that, and I used Luis's office last week or 2 weeks ago for my mental health meeting. And when I left, then she had some veterans in there talking. And as you know, the things that they talk about with her are a little personal sometimes. And so having people coming back and forth and coming through your office disrupts where she was at with her conversation. And likewise with Kaylin, the people she talks to, they're suffering from a situation where you don't want people coming back and forth and maybe overhearing your problems. So I'm anxious to get her an office in the city center where she has some privacy and can come and go more as she pleases. So that's my report in a nutshell.
Good. Just the thing that you said we should be stopping. We had a question from a local area producer that in the HF4, which is a bill that they're taking through down there in Iowa, at the State House, I should say. Now where it sounded, it was wrote in there like they were gonna restrict the sale of chicken, beef and pork on the SNAP program, but it actually was a mistake and it's getting amended. Actually, what they're after is what Dave said they should be after, is stuff like Red Bull and candy. So we're gonna protect against diabetes and feed them healthy meals.
But it was a concern because it was initially was in the bill that pork and beef and poultry would be excluded as
What
well.
were they gonna feed them?
Tofu and.
In this woke society,
What do
but
you
that didn't
mean?
sound like an Iowa answer, so it was a mistake, so just so in case any of your constituents ask.
I mean, I can see the poultry part.
So thanks for bringing that
Way
to our
too much
attention.
Chicken wings are gonna be one of the highest sold amounts
at the Super Bowl this year, what they say, how many millions of pounds?
Since.
A chicken?
If you can afford it.
For the
That's just for the high rollers.
That's just for the high rollers.
Can't buy eggs, so.
Yeah, well,
you might as well have
ribeyes
chicken
cheap
wings, I
compared to
guess.
chicken, it'd be. All right,
Okay, Gene, Dave, did you have?
Yeah, I did. I had a busy week. We had ISAC event Thursday or Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday I had the board of directors meeting, was sworn into the board of directors. The supervisors that are on the board of directors is Barry Anderson from Clay.
Yep.
He is our first vice chair. Richard Crouch is from Mills. He is our NACO representative on that board. And then Mark Campbell from Webster.
Okay.
And myself, to be on that board. A lot of discussion on what's happening with some of our legislation. Craig, I thought we had a great event Wednesday and Thursday, learned a lot. Property tax, of course, is one of the primary topics. Looking at House File 1 and what we had discussed with Steve last week. Assessed values was, I would say, going after capping them is not the angle that the majority of the county elected officials thought was a good thing. Instead, looking more along the lines of maybe reimbursing counties for the services we do provide for the state that cost us a lot. And you start digging into the numbers there, you know, with what the treasurer collects and what we actually keep is quite a discrepancy.
oh,
You're looking at CDLs and driver license and
they
even
asked me
record.
about that last week about that, and I said, you know, that's a, we made no money off them CDL tests, and they were just, couldn't believe it.
I mean, you got
What's
the
the,
time
what's the
that,
percent that the state takes that we keep? I mean, do,
I don't remember the exact number.
It's not much.
Not much. It
it was
was,
like 90-10, probably
I don't know.
95-5.
She'll be in at 10:10
You could
to
ask her. It's
talk about her semi-annual
no more than-
report.
yeah, she should have that. And they had Tracy Marshall and Chris Rowley. Tracy's from Cass County, as treasurer, and then Chris Rowley is Senator Dave Rowley's wife. She's Dickinson County treasurer. They presented their, looking at coming up with a bill that actually increases those fees, but keeps more of it at the county. And like Senator Rowley had said, you know, some of those fees, we used to be able to employ a staff member or two within the treasury department or within the county because we kept more of those fees local and they didn't go on to the state. So anyway, a lot of good, I mean, talk a lot about the government organization, chart and how things operate at county level and I either Craig, I thought it was
No, it
good.
was very good. I mean, you've been in business or work throughout your whole life. You go to many of those training seminars or workshops, that sort of thing. So, I mean, you're used to the process. It was just different as far as the information. I thought the information was very good, what they give for me being a first-time supervisor. I thought it was very rudimentary, down nuts and bolts and stuff that I could understand. So
I,
I appreciate that.
And what I like to, we were able to kind of ask some questions as far as things that directly affect counties. And I like that back and forth when you get into the question and answer part of it. We did ask about the, you know, when we sign on PRN status and some of those things. And they kind of gave us
I asked about that yesterday.
Soapy water type thing.
Well-
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it was.
some of it is, yes, it's just filing away as long as it's not a budget. And it really comes down to me, what I got, if it's a budget change or a budget amendment is needed or something along those lines, then we have say. If not, it's a filing purposes. And that even like a PRN status, it is simply that we are recognizing the notice of change.
I would say that's a good way to say that what she said, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the other things I gotta ask about, I asked Carissa, who's on the board of directors, as the assessor, and I gotta talk to the Carroll County Board of Supervisors and two supervisors. Well, Steve Earl, that was in front of, he was Clinton County, I think, that was sitting in front of us. We gotta talk to him about the reevaluation of our
Oh.
homes,
Residential.
residential reevaluation.
Uh-huh.
Every single one of them said, you haven't done it since when, and you need to get doing it today. They said it was very, very beneficial to
Okay.
the county.
Good to know. Good to know.
I asked them about, a little bit about, you know, you're going into people's homes, or you have questionnaires, how's this work? People, I can see people get upset with just the intrusiveness maybe of it. They said, no, as long as you're upfront and open communication and there's different ways to, you know, if somebody doesn't like you in your house, there's still, like Stephanie Hoffman said, there's still ways to fill out surveys on it, and it just equalizing. A lot of those counties were doing it or trying to do it every 10 years, getting into that rotation.
Well, that would make
50.
sense. That would make sense to, you know, not just bam it, you know, $800,000 and we haven't done it for 45 years. You know, if we were doing it regularly, you know, this just seems like a lot of back stepping a little bit, but, you know. Because when I asked the question about that, you know, how long or how much they thought they would recoup, how much more it would bring in, the answer was, we're just doing it to try to balance out, make sure everybody's paying their fair share.
How the county I talked to them said
Nobody in
that it
that
actually
office would-
boosts.
Okay.
Nobody
I
that's
needed
currently in
that
an office
to
would
know
know what
that,
it
'cause
is.
And
it-
she's right, that was the answer
that was the
we got.
answer.
Right.
But-
So-
And I'm sure they don't wanna say, hey, yeah, it will bring this
No,
or that,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they can't.
I just needed to know that that was the ultimate goal.
But as
you know,
far as
was to-
what, you know, Mr. Irwin from Clinton told me and
Mhm.
what
I
the
appreciate
Carroll
that very
ones had
much.
said that, yes, this actually
Okay,
leveled the playing field, kept things
It's
up
worth-
and
it's
it was
worth the money
worth the
spent.
money to do it.
good. I like, the other thing that, you know, was a little concerning to me is if somebody didn't let you into their home, the remedy of that is we just put up what we think it is. It's gonna be too high. You come in and you beg us to come and look. Because then well, you know, if we got it wrong, then we'll lower it. But if you're not gonna let us in, we'll just say,
But I think that the way that the Carroll County Board had said that there's surveys and different questions that you can answer without letting them in,
okay,
that get you in the ballpark.
okay.
Making
So they
some
actually did it within their assessor's office and didn't hire a firm
The
to
the
do it.
contract hired it.
They did.
Yeah, both of them did.
So we should wait 4 years to get it done. I mean, isn't it 4 years
Yeah,
away?
yeah,
Well, yeah, I think that was to soften the blow.
If we
Right.
soften that blow, that's right, Cal.
140,000 a year for the next.
But
I
yes,
agree with you, so if it's that important, but
Right.
can we pay in the backside, you know?
but yes,
Well,
they
I
hired
know you said he
contractors
didn't
to
have, they
come in.
wouldn't have time until then anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was something like that,
They
Cal.
got
Yeah.
Vanguard.
They're booked
who's
full up
bid it
till-
out,
And they're
then
like,
part of that
they're
is they
the-
would do it.
They're like
But
tuck
also
pointers.
Very many
There's
that do it,
only
they
one or
were
two in the country that can
help,
tuck
you know,
point
just to bring
anymore.
that in, they bring in 6,000 households and
Unfortunately, unless you
our
wanna
staff has to
started
change all
being
of that,
a
take another year to
evaluation
get it
process.
actually up, so.
Um,
Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that, actually.
Yeah, so I think it's probably something.
I'm sure we'll
I
discuss it.
feel, thank you for checking on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate
Well,
that.
you know, that's what, I really like to be able to ask those questions so you can bring back, you know. and-
Absolutely.
Oh, that's the networking of it.
Yep, that's
Um,
why I wished I would have
A
gone.
couple other things. Terry, I was gonna talk about this. ISAC is still offering HIPAA compliance. Officer Beth Manley to provide the HIPAA compliance services like Gary Jones does for us. It's something to think about. Gary, they said Gary does an awesome job.
Right, he does.
Right.
I know, yeah, other companies do it too, but
In fact, talking with Beth Manley about it, the 26 or 7 counties that do use her, she said she still has a relationship with Gary Jones through ISAC, that if it gets something larger than what they can handle or staff wise, that I think they lean on him as well.
Are they significantly cheaper or?
I have to get hard numbers for you, but
We have them both here.
I want to say she was like 2 to 3 grand or 2 to 4, and Gary's what,
1,000 a month.
1,000 a month.
I'm quicker every month. I think
I
we
thought the
also would have to
services
want to talk with Amy.
Mr. Jones was providing a way to, I remember when they both came and presented that.
Yeah.
For some reason, it seemed like we were like way more impressed with,
Gary.
yeah.
He's-
Well, he was more hands-on
Right.
getting us compliant because our, you know, our information that we had, you know, as far as the program and stuff was pretty insufficient.
And I think
So
that's
he
something that we
was-
weighed back then, Kyle, is, yes, Gary was more hands-on and came with a cost. And I think ISAC is more,
You get us the information, we'll put it together for you, wasn't it?
What,
they're there
ISAC.
to assist you as you
They're
need
more of an
help.
assist.
right?
Yeah.
And of course, like everything else, it was gonna fall
I
on
did
the
that on
laps
purpose.
of the auditor's office, and we don't always have time for,
Right.
I think that's why.
to implement stuff,
That was
so
part of
it
the
was nice the way Gary did it. We did some things, he yeah,
But I just bring it up.
he was more
The
hands-on.
option is still out there. I'm not saying that we have to make a decision
Okay.
on it, but
I'll look at that.
things are working good with Gary as well. They're still working good. I had a couple of farmers grab me at our daycare fundraiser and asked me about the federal $500
Oh, yeah.
deal that allows you to be heavier with your semis.
Yeah, Paul's gonna talk about that.
He is?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
I talked to him about it yesterday, so he's gonna talk to us all about it today, so.
Okay, I did talk to Lisa Gallagher and Sherry a little bit this morning about it as well. It's kind of, I think it's another one of those deals too, that we don't get to keep that $500, we
We
have
gotta
to
keep a portion
a
of it.
portion of it, not all of it.
I think the permits, I think if it's anything like the past, permits will be issued through the engineer's office.
Then we have to identify what roads would be
What's up, like, all-
appropriate for all of them.
Yeah, the way it's all, he'll talk to you,
Yeah.
that's all or nothing.
That's what I thought it sounded like. from
You
Paul.
can't pick and choose, it's all
See
or
what he's
nothing.
got to say, because he's up on it.
Good, that'll be, but it was brought up, just, we're concerned, is it gonna deteriorate our roads further, but without heavier weights or?
Yep.
My fear is, right now, I spoke with somebody yesterday about it, and our farmers, it really gives them that where they can do that 80 to 90 and kind of, assuming that they're trying to do everything right, it gives them that room, that 10,000 pounds to play with, where they're not gonna get a ticket overnight. But some people out there, farmers and otherwise, will go clear over that 90. And they're already doing that, and they're gonna do it even afterwards. So I mean, what difference will that make? I mean, when you're over, you still go back to 80,000 pounds. So that big ticket hopefully will be a discourager. But I mean, right now, I would say you're probably, a lot of trucks are well enough over 80 anyway, even when what I'm saying is, like, in particular, our grain trucks. When you're loading in the fall, which the ground's usually dry, you don't know your corn, the weight of your corn most of the time, and so you're loading trucks and you're guessing. Well, and you're only gonna haul 12 miles or 20 miles, so, there's no scale between you and that until you get to the elevator, so. I mean, the stuff's already out. Well, you might have the same effect even loading out of the bin, where the only difference is at least you got an idea what your corn weight is by then, you would hope, but, still, all things being equal, it would, for me, I'd like to know how much would we generate out of this, I mean.
Generate none if we choose to go against it, and
Yeah.
we're still gonna do it,
Yeah, and I would just like to be able to fight and say, hey, we want,
unfortunately.
like with the driver's license, if we're gonna get $100 out of the 500, to the counties. That just doesn't seem like it's worth our while, because we are gonna have more road problems too, I think, because I just think we will, but who knows?
I think it's 6 months out of the year, it seems like not anymore, we're allowed that, the farmers are at least that 90,000
Mhm.
for a grain,
Mhm.
but something that was brought up.
Yeah.
That's probably about it.
Dog is back, Dave.
Okay, Greg,
I did attend my first West Central Community Action Board meeting a week ago, and they have a new survey which is out, and I'll just kind of hit what I found interesting, I guess. The community needs that they felt were needed the most in those 10 counties. Unemployment, low wages, education, or skills do not match available job opportunities. 44% said that. 55% responded there is insufficient mental health, substance abuse for behavioral or mental health care services. 64% stated there's not enough safe or affordable housing. 69% stated there's a lack of accessible and affordable childcare facilities. And 65% respond there's an insufficient number of accessible and affordable public transportation. As far as Crawford County had the highest poverty rate of 18.73%. Crawford County was the highest in percentage of households living in poverty at 16%. Child poverty rates for ages 5 to 17, Crawford County was the highest at 25.3%. Crawford County has the highest free and reduced lunches at 63% of our public school students.
Say that again. That doesn't
Reduce
surprise me.
lunches, 60.
Out of the 35,221 total public school in the reported area, the highest percentage of a school district that was eligible for free and reduced lunches was Crawford County at 63.1%.
Monona in there.
Harrison County had the lowest at 33.6. Monona was at 54.1.
Here, can I ask a question?
Yep.
What's the fresh
I don't know if I have an answer, but you can.
You know, it used to be to get free and reduced lunches, you had to take in your taxes or something to show. And I'm under the impression or understanding that all you have to do is apply and you'll get it. Is that,
That I don't
is
know.
that a rumor?
I don't know what but occasionally I go and eat breakfast as though like the board members and
Uh-huh.
breakfast. That number does not shock me.
Do they,
Just
they
being
got a
like
contributing
within the
factor? I mean,
community,
you can't fix something.
that's
you
not
don't
a
know what's
shock.
Right.
create the problem. What is their contributing factor?
They don't say what the contributing factor is. I mean, free or reduced price lunches are served to qualifying students and families with income below 130%
There's gotta be some sort of.
free lunch or under 185% reduced price of the US federal poverty threshold as part of the federal national school lunch program.
Okay,
So Washington DC would set those poverty rates, and I would guess
Sure.
here in rural
sure. Yep.
America, it's easier to hit those.
That would make-
Possibly larger families,
Right.
things like that,
And that is how it, I mean, it's
Yeah.
the larger the family
right?
number of units.
Boy, especially if you got like a single parent house, or not a single parent, but a single working parent or the stay-at-home mom or dad.
Right,
And, you know, that would probably drop you down, you know, and if you got 5 kids,
Oh, that,
which some of our families out there are bigger families.
And out of those 10 counties, Crawford County has the highest unemployment rate, which probably contributes to that at 2.9%.
you know. Good point.
Good morning.
good morning.
And as far as last thing is substandard housing, Crawford County is the second highest in substandard housing at 24.06%. And we have the lowest number of percentage of the population with access to high-speed internet. We're at 95.05%, and there are 3 counties at 100, but we are the lowest.
We're not breaking any of the good side.
It interests me how they gather that information a little bit.
Right. I mean, out of the respondents, Crawford was, out of the 10 counties, we were only 8% of the respondents.
Oh.
So the largest was Potawatomi was 23.25%, but of course, they're the largest population too.
Sure,
you gotta pick the numbers.
yeah,
You
that,
gotta pick the numbers and read it, but it does give you a snapshot.
Gives you a snapshot. Correct.
none of them surprise me. For the record.
Oh, me, Paul, we can come back to the rest of
All
it.
right,
Good
Paul,
morning.
proceed.
Okay, well, we've got a few items on here. A couple will have to wait till the 10 and 10:05 public hearing, but we did have a good bid letting last week on our bridge. So,
And thanks, John.
but anyhow, you can see below there in item 8, you know, what our engineer's estimate was and what the bid came in at. So the next high was in the 1.3 million. The next low, I should say. So pleased with that. So we're gonna continue to move forward.
Pretty dang close.
Yeah,
When's that gonna be done? Or when are they?
we don't know.
When they open the road back up.
Yeah, so just to give you, so we can't talk to the contractors. I can't call them and say, hey, when are you gonna start this until after the DOT has approved everything. So today what we'll do is we'll award it, but they're really, really fussy about any communication. So as soon as I can, I'll call the contractor and try to get a feel for their schedule, you know, when they're gonna start on the project. As far as I'm concerned, they can start on it right away.
They usually get them done within a 12-month time period?
Oh, yeah, it should be done hopefully by harvest. That's our goal, is usually to try to let these early enough in the year that we get the project done before harvest, thinking that, planting in the summer is probably an inconvenience, but less so than it would be at harvest time. So that's our goal, Craig, just to give you kind of an idea. Generally that works out. Here recently, we've had labor issues and,
Weather
and just a lot of things. So that's why I'm really usually cautious to say when it will be done.
Prior to the last
You got a railroad.
year and a half, 4 months is a typical, probably 4 months was a typical time frame.
Yeah. Yeah, they could knock it out. An average would be about 4 months.
Yeah, it used to be like 4 months, now it's changed obviously a little bit.
But good news is we got good bids and we're gonna get a nice bridge there. So.
How many bids were
There were only 2. Yeah. So we were happy, we got what we wanted there. And we got the asphalt project, of course, coming up here in February and hopefully that'll fall in line as well. The day labor kind of update, basically snow removal, last week we went from, I wasn't around, but we went from, the spring thaw in January to, to 6 inches of heavy wet snow on Wednesday night. It's pretty typical. The last few winters have been unusually nice. Okay, and so people kind of start to maybe not remember some of those bad ones, but this is pretty typical of what we see. So went from mud to snow to then ice, to snowpack and ice.
I'll
But,
tell you, people I think out there, especially in the rural roads, they're appreciative of what's getting done.
Yeah.
And they understand the circumstances. And when they see a low white rock in a real bad spot, or even just grading up a spot, I've heard more thank yous than I have complaints.
Yeah, well, that's good. And we haven't had any, at least I haven't, and I'm not aware of anyone calling us terribly upset. In fact, while I was gone on Monday, I had a lot of conversation and email and text back and forth with and he's kind of the feed dispatcher for new co-op. And I happen to know him because his son married my niece. Okay. But anyhow, they're really trying. He said, Paul, we don't want to tear your roads up, but when we have customers that call and they need feed, he said, we're trying to, what kind of solutions are there? And I said, well, there's really limited, but smaller loads, and he said, we will do that. They will shuttle it down and then put it on a truck and take half the loads into, off the paved road. So I think they're trying to, to try to figure it out, because obviously if they get stuck and they have to call a tow truck, and you're looking at 500-600, maybe more each time that happens.
More.
Yeah. And so anyhow, we're all in it together. But what we have to understand is that when the weather doesn't cooperate, there's only so much we can do. And we can't even go out there and deal with it. And Kyle, you know that. I mean, we'll go out with partial loads, small dump trucks, and try to just spot whatever we can. But the roads just become impassable sometimes when it thaws. And so we just have to kind of all understand and work together and realize that it'll get better. It always has. But it's going to be a little messy for a while. And I think this spring's, I'm hopeful that I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be one of those that's going to be a little ugly. So
That's because we got.
I think you're probably right.
well,
Getting
and
enough moisture now.
yeah, we never really had an opportunity. Actually, the last 2 years, you need rain. You need about an inch of rain. It's kind of like growing a crop. You need an inch of rain every so often to add the moisture, and you add rock to it and you start to build the crust. Well, we haven't had that, so what happens is that gravel just stays on top. We just keep moving it back and forth and grind it up into a powder, which is going to lead to kind of a problematic spring if it stays wet. So we've got a really good supply of crushed limestone. We're going to continue to bring more in just to have extra here from Fort Dodge and possibly Fort Calhoun. And then as soon as the thaw hits, we do what we can. We start to shuttle rocks, loads out when it's froze, and then as soon as it gets bad, we pull off and wait till the next day, and that's about all we can do. So
One like Dave, I actually did get some complaints about the roads, and it started getting kind of noisy. I was getting them on Messenger, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to tell these people we actually have a plan. We're not just winging it. We're trying to do some things right. And I posted something on Facebook. It got actually quite a good response. And, you know, a couple threw in little snide comments, but nothing,
Yeah.
nothing of merit. And I think that never hurts. I try not to say anything beyond what Paul's ever told us, so that I'm not speaking out of turn, but I think the fact that they knew we had a plan going forward, you know, because everybody's big thing, oh, we need more white rock. So I told them what white rock does, drive to Humboldt in August and see what a white rock road's like to drive on. I promise you, you won't like that either.
Yeah, what Ty's speaking to is that when it gets hot and dry in the summertime, if you have a road that's all crushed limestone, it becomes, you can't blade it. It'll pothole up and there's no good way to blade that. So that's the downside of it. So the best road is a combination of the two products, crushed limestone with the gravel that we get. Because that gives you a road that's bladable, that's serviceable. And we've got a lot of those out there. When you get a midwinter thaw and just the conditions are kind of, you know, the stars are aligning for, it's not so pretty spring. Okay, when you get a midwinter thaw, there is no magic wand we can wave to make it go away. It's either got to dry up or freeze up. It's just, and I hate to be so simple in that explanation, but
Is what it is.
So I think when you brought in the Iowa State engineers and we had that down at Kronk's, that meeting about the different road types, that was extremely beneficial. You just understand the makeup of roads and
and the soils.
the
And
soils.
the soils, the underlying soils, and so we go through it every year, just saying. So you just kind of got to put your blinders on and keep going, and we'll get through it. So anyhow, let's see, we got a couple other things we can do before we get to the 10 o'clock public hearing. And oh, by the way, the discussion about roads and stuff, we'll get down to item 9 here, and I want to talk about that. We'll get into maybe a more detailed discussion about where we want to go with things. But is it all right if we skip to item 6 here? The other two are associated with the public hearings.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
It's the letter of support. And so an update on that. And so where we're at right now is I provided all the information for the grant writers. So as you're aware, HDR, which is a consulting firm that was hired by the collective group of counties, is working on putting together this raise application. There were originally 10 projects that were going to be submitted. The DOT is withdrawn from the submittal for a variety of reasons. I don't really need to get into it. They just withdrew, which is good because now
Bigger pool for the rest of us.
everybody gets more money that really needed it. And so this puts us back into 3.1 million that we were hoping to get, which then takes this discussion about the sidewalk. And then the city's going to have to, you know, the sidewalk helps the overall grant because it's providing pedestrian connectivity.
pedestrian
It's
walkway.
part of the puzzle of pedestrian connectivity. So it's, you know, it's addressing a bridge that's over a rail. It's a joint project between the city and the county. Is addressing the vehicular traffic concerns. And so this is a really good project and that it.
Because what did you
checks a
say
lot
the
of
sidewalk
boxes.
adds in cost?
Well, it was 2.75 to 3.1, so about 350,000. Yeah, and that's a very high level, Craig, you know, kind of a.
But you have to have something that's got the,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so, we're at 3.1 based on that preliminary estimate that I got from our consultant, you know, based on their experience. So
How does it, you know, when we talk about that sidewalk,
So that people aren't-
we, at one point in time, it's kind of like a sidewalk that didn't really go anywhere.
you're
Does-
absolutely right.
Does that hinder the application because it's not connecting to, you know,
Well,
or,
they like the fact that we're incorporating into this
okay,
and that there's this attempt to do connectivity.
Sure.
Now, the rest of that's gonna kind of sit with the city,
okay.
you know, we're gonna kind of stay out of that, but I mean,
But that is their ultimate goal, to have
it is,
walking,
yeah.
so that helps that piece. When you do get ready to connect, at least it's there and you might as well do it while you're doing it, right?
Exactly, that's kind of the thinking, Gene, and some people may look at it, you're gonna get all kinds of good points, I'm
That's-
sure.
I am.
And so, but if you don't do this piece, you're never gonna get it done.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
And
it's
if we
right.
have the opportunity now to do it, you know. Again, there'll be all kinds of opinions.
especially if you could make it even bikeable, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah. you
well, the
know,
city
it-
is working on a plan.
They are,
They
and to
are.
their credit, this is a key piece to that. So now if the funding's available, perhaps makes
I
sense to
agree.
incorporate it.
Yep.
So, So anyhow, I've got the letter here. So what they're in the process of doing is gathering letters of support. And so boards, so I've sent this out to a number of different other, the school and other places.
I make a
And so-
motion to sign that letter of support for the RISE grant application.
Second.
Raise, it's not the RISE, it's the raise.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any further discussion on the support of the RISE grant?
It's raise.
Raise.
We used to have a RISE.
There is a
but now
RISE
it's the raise,
program.
yes.
This is raise.
I know, I
Raise grant.
corrected
Yeah.
myself.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in support of the RAISE grant, Madam Auditor, did you correct my verbiage there?
Mine too.
Or- All right, all in favor, say, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye.
Kind of along that same vein, item 7 here is this bridge wasn't really on the radar until about, back in last summer when there was a need to post it as far as a bridge project that we would be doing. So it's not in our 5-year program. So we need to amend the 5-year program to include that. And so you're all hopefully okay with is that it would pass through the county. The grant money would come to us, would pass through, we talked about us administering it. And then it's just, we have the experience, I think, to make the project a lot simpler. This is the way to go. And then the city perhaps taking care of all the outside engineering costs, and we just take care of our side in-house. So
Makes sense. And you're good with that.
I'm fine with it, as long as you guys are.
so by amending that, we haven't taken any bridge projects out,
No.
we've just added it. And is there any, in that amendment, is there any order in which those bridges is put, or is it just,
This has no impact
No
on
impact, okay.
our program as far as what we're doing. We're just plugging this in, and I'm assuming that we're gonna get, so the good thing about this grant, is the city already got the 1.5 million in city federal bridge money. Okay, they were awarded that. If we do the RAISE grant now at 3.1 and we get 80% of that, that's a big number.
big number?
And then we could come back and add the 500,000. So we flip the city's bridge money from federal to state, but it goes from 1.5 to 500,000. So now all of a sudden, we're gonna be close to $3 million total in grant funding for the project as opposed to 1.5. So that gets us really close to getting the thing fully funded.
Sounds like a great project.
Exactly. Good job.
I'm hoping, okay, this is no guarantee.
Well, hopefully it comes through.
Make a motion to approve the amendment to the Iowa DOT fiscal year 2023 county 5-year
Second.
program adding Don Reed Bridge.
Moved by Mr. Schultz, seconded by Mr. Mulbauer. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, no.
Okay, thank you.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
And then Ty, you can sign, I'm just gonna put a little X there. Yeah. Just like that.
Okay. Ten o'clock. All right. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
Make that motion to go into public hearing?
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Hayden, second by Mr. Schultz. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. In public hearing. Reclassifying a section of 300th Street extending from State Highway 141 south 1 mile to the intersection of W Avenue from the Area Service B road to an Area Service A roadway. Anybody got any questions on where that's actually located?
Sure. Yeah, what is it?
Nice pretty road, nice pretty road. Drive down there.
Go down,
Nope, you're over.
Vanilla. Go down and then, here somewhere.
Look for the red, yeah.
The
red
road, right
This
there.
red road is now a white road.
Yep.
They graded it and gravelled it at the expense of the landowner.
He paid for it long.
He paid for the aggregate surfacing, and we did the cover the cost of the grade.
It's like, it's what we consistently do if somebody wants to upgrade it, so.
Craig, that's only 2 miles east of where the Macomb farm was. where the
Oh,
grandparents are.
Yeah, it's actually very nice road now. Drive down, take a look, you'd be pretty darn impressed.
Turn out well.
Good.
So we have a motion to approve a resolution to.
They have to come.
Oh,
here.
not a public
Did we have any objections to the reclassification? Anybody present? Madam Auditor, have we received anything oral or written? All right, I'd entertain a motion to come out of public hearing.
I move that. I'm ready to public hearing.
Second.
Ms. Hayden, Mr. Mulbauer seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve item number 4. Change the service from level B to level A,
Which is a resolution.
which is a resolution.
It's a resolution, yes, indeed. All right. It's been moved by Mr. Mulbauer, second by Mr. Dozark. All, Kyle,
Aye.
Mr. Dozark, Mr. Mulbauer,
Aye.
Ms. Hayden,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Resolution carried.
Make a comment, because I know Kyle's looking at your agenda.
Yeah, I was just making sure that we had
I-
everything in order
So
to
I
take
sub-
an
I
action.
submitted all of this, and so, and I know Megan then sat back and said, well, it's part of a public hearing, so I don't know what the protocol is there, but so it was taken off then.
Well,
as part
that's
of the
just, I was
public
just
hearing.
looking at that, if we need
Yeah.
to come back next week and do the official action
So,
on it, being it's not on.
On this agenda?
Right, it's not on
Yeah.
the board's
Oh,
agenda.
Yeah, and see, so I put it on there, but then, you know, and
I don't know why she did that.
yeah, and then it was taken back off, so it's on my agenda.
You took it off too?
No,
His is to take action.
it's on my,
his,
this is
but
what I
not-
submitted, this
I
is
see
what I
what you're
submitted,
saying.
she said, well, that's covered on the public
She should have
hearing.
had the hearing and she should have noted the resolution,
So,
How was it published?
Well, it was published.
just like
at-
your agenda looks
Just like
like,
So do we need to abstain
not
that?
his agenda,
Then we need to backtrack.
your agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Same way,
so-
go back and abstain that,
Yeah.
how's that work?
So,
First time for me to see that.
I don't know.
because I saw you looking at yours, and I was a bit puzzled too, because I thought, well, it's
Well,
not
I wish
really,
someone would have brought it to our attention
Yeah.
yesterday, because it
Yeah.
could have been fixed.
I just
Yeah.
noticed that.
yeah,
Okay, but
Right,
you
when
get
we
the
could.
agendas on
Yeah.
Friday, so
yeah.
Sure
that's
do.
why we send them out. So if things get noticed, we appreciate
Mhm.
that people bring it to our attention.
Yeah.
because
But I
The same
We
thing
are
on
not
the
see
10:05
this
item.
until-
Well, we're not trying to blame anybody here. What we're trying to do is, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Do we need
Well,
to-
we could table it and put it on next week's.
I think that'd be
agenda.
the best way to do it as far as past
Yeah.
practices that we.
Yep.
Right, I think
But-
you want it noted.
Yeah, but I think in the
Right.
future, when I give her these, you know, we probably should just leave it on there, and then she can schedule a public hearing and have this on here too, because we can always backtrack, at least it's on.
No, we can always table it.
Yeah,
All right,
Also be.
Right.
so I'd
that'll also
entertain the
be,
motion to table what we just actually did.
Since I made the motion, I second.
Any further discussion on this? I hear none. All in favor, say aye.
I
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye.
will make note that that will also cover the next item after the public hearing. There's no avenue of action
Yeah,
on
I see
those
that
agendas.
on the Kenwood.
why do we want to, we would do, it? Should we go into public hearing and then table?
We'll still have a
Yeah,
public
okay,
hearing.
all right.
and we'll have to do that.
Take no action.
Take no action till next week.
Make a motion to go into public hearing for the vacation of the right of way of portion, access right of way located near the intersection of P Avenue and Kenwood Road.
So,
Going into
Motion by
public
Ms. Hayden, second by Mr. Schultz. To vacate right-of-way portions and access right-of-way located near the intersection of P Avenue and Kenwood Road. Is there any further
if your memory's
discussion?
right, Paul, this is one of the anomalies that through the grading process, you know. So,
little triangle there.
That triangle, this is
Yeah.
back to the,
Yeah.
where they're gonna put the seed.
Yep, yep.
Do we have any public?
Does anybody from the public want to address this? We do have one.
That's not gonna affect the line along the highway, correct? The power lines,
should not.
No.
right away all stays there.
Yeah, like the
We'll still have
33
our
feet from the
66
center line, all that'll be the same. Yeah, all that'll be the
We're
same.
good
Okay,
then. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, hearing none,
Did you vote on opening the hearing?
yes,
We did vote on it.
Well, we
No,
didn't,
there was a
we didn't-
motion and
we
a
didn't
second.
vote. We were actually
I
doing,
made a
I
motion
did,
to
I
go
asked
into
for further
public.
discussion.
Yeah, I know that.
All right, so all in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, opposed, no. We're in a public hearing. All right. Still trying to catch up from the 10 o'clock. All right,
You.
and we already had our discussion, obviously.
This is no brainer. Let's get it cleaned up and get it.
Yeah, to me, this is
Put it
pretty
on
easy.
tax roll,
Cut and
and
dry.
let progress commence. So,
Okay. We have no other discussion. Did we have anything written or verbal otherwise? Hearing none. I'd entertain a motion that
move we come out of a public hearing?
Mr. Dozark moves to come out.
Second.
Ms. Hayden seconds. And or just any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye.
Okay.
Very good.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
It'll be official next week on your resume.
Someday I'm gonna write about this.
About what?
I wish you would.
Appreciate it.
Would.
Yeah. Okay,
You gotta be more specific. When you say right about this.
We
Or
accept.
someday.
That's pretty broad.
Yeah.
someday,
Okay, 10-10.
someday never
Constructive
comes.
Let's
criticism is
go
always
back to, we got item 8 yet on poll.
Yeah. Okay, and this is just the award, the motion to award the contract to Graves Construction. So we do that, the DOT does that, and then we work on getting all the contract information prepared and get it ready to bring back for contract approval.
I make a motion to award the bridge replacement project with that bridge number to Graves Construction in the amount of $1,158,234.65.
Second.
Motion was made for the bridge replacement project and seconded by Mr. Dozark, made by Schultz.
We had Graves Construction do bridge work for us before. All right.
Very good. Very good.
Any other discussion?
Call the question.
No question. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Chair votes aye, motion carries.
Okay, item 9.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't know if most of you are aware or not, but the state legislature last legislative session approved some legislation that allows all trucks to carry 12% more. Okay, so I believe, and I'm being a little presumptive here, is that this kind of, the seed was planted for this, and that the governor always would do a proclamation in the fall of the year to allow semis to go up to 90,000. So it's your 5-axle configuration could carry 90,000. Okay, and so that's gone on for years. And through COVID, it went on for a longer period than normal. But so that was just ag related. So the legislation now says that all trucks can carry any product, all dump trucks, semis, whatever they are, can carry 12% more, or allowed to, if they pay a $500 annual fee. Okay, and then they'll have to pay for the additional weight as well. The registration is based on weight, so they'd have to pay for that. And then they also gave the counties the ability to opt in or opt out, or partially opt in or partially out, you know, on what roads they would allow this to happen. And so, and it's very specific that it also, that they still have to abide by bridge postings. Okay, so essentially, you know, they just said, hey, you can carry more weight, you gotta pay this fee. And so I was just over talking to the treasurer's office, and they said they've had a number of inquiries about it. There seems to be a little confusion, you know, about, you know, what's allowed, what's not allowed. Every year, we're required to provide an update to the DOT, their systems mapping, and to show any new roadway reclassifications, bridges that are removed, roads that are paved, you know, update our system because that's available statewide. And then a number of years ago, we were asked to consider an annual oversize permitting. Okay, kind of a similar thing, but it was just wider, taller, longer loads. And so at that time, we opted in and said, yeah, we'd allow you to use our paved roads with these wider loads that didn't seem to be all that harmful. This time, unfortunately, we already submitted, and that's no one's fault but mine, because I told Ben as soon as we had the reclassification done, we'd submit this and get it in. And so we opted out. We can change it. So we already told them, we said, hey, why don't you just sit tight on that? But if you look at the map of the state of Iowa, we show as a red, we show up red. A number of the surrounding counties haven't done anything yet. A number of the counties in the state haven't done anything yet. There are a few that have opted all in. They just said, hey, pay the $500. We'll let you travel on any of our roads with those heavier loads. There's a few of them that have done that. A number of counties have opted partially in. So if you look at this map, there's the white, which means you can go anywhere you want. There's the gray that says, okay, well, you better check to see which roads you can travel on with that permit, which ones you can't. There's the yellow that have not done anything yet. And then there's a few reds that have said.
That's the map that I was showing yesterday.
Yeah.
There's red around yellow.
So what does this mean for us? Okay, well, if we opt in, even if we opt in 1 mile, okay, whatever funds they collect on a statewide basis, this $500 per truck. And I just talked to a person with the DOT, said about 700 registrations have come in so far. Statewide. It's not a lot, really. But that money, let's say if 10 counties opt in, okay, whatever that money is gets allocated 10 ways. Or 3/4 of it, excuse me, 3/4 of it, not all of it, 3/4 of it goes back to the counties. Yeah.
Not necessarily based on population.
No,
or
it's just
size.
you either opt in or out.
Because
It's either yes or no. And so if 50 go in, it's spread out 50 ways. And so, so that's kind of where a potential revenue could come through. I'm not sure if the governor will do a proclamation again in the fall. I'm not sure. I mean, well, I don't know, because there might be, if you're a local farmer and you're just hauling from, A to B, and you just want to do it in the fall, you might not spend the extra 500 plus whatever extra fee you got to pay to license your truck to go to the higher weight. So I think the jury's still out on that. For us, we, I already had Calhoun Burns kind of look at our bridges. If the bridge is already posted, this has no effect on it because it is what it is. It's already posted. And then some of our really good bridges, our concrete bridges, doesn't have any impact on those either because they're built to carry more than that. It's kind of some of these tweener bridges. And I think there was like 118, kind of, we call them the middle or the tweener bridges. They're going to have to take a look at, and they estimated that to cost about $5,000 to look at those bridges, and see whether or not, there's going to be an issue there. I don't know, and if there is, then we have to post. We have to put a posting up, and so.
Who polices this? And I mean, if it's a DOT, do the DOT have to have, all these different maps of what's allowed in each county and not allowed?
Yeah. That's why they want the maps. So some counties are opting in partially and they're saying, well, we'll allow you to use the paved roads, but not the gravel roads. Now, that could help somebody who's going from Atlantic to Storm Lake, perhaps, or going, from Aspenwall to somewhere else. But the farmer that's hauling his grain from the elevator, from the bin into town, not being able to use the gravel roads doesn't do any good at all. If we opt out of those and opt in on the pavements.
But it is, if you opt in just to let them be on your hard surface roads, you'd still get the same amount of money. And then we have to worry about the wear and tear on our gravel roads and the impact on our tweener bridges.
Well, we'd still have, there's still maybe a couple on the paved system, but not most of them, almost 99% of them, those are probably going to be okay. Yeah, so it's, that's a good point. However, the heavier loads, and here's why, this is just my personal opinion, is that it's not really been a problem so much in the fall of the year because we don't have the same issues like we had last Monday. in the fall of the year, generally speaking.
Right.
So when you allow this all year long, the spring of the year is when you're really gonna see a lot of issues. Because if you're hauling those, even if you're hauling on a paved road, Gene, the same soil conditions are existing underneath of that pavement as they do on a gravel road. Okay, your pavement's just bridging it, and it can do that for a while until all of a sudden it fails.
But you see it for days on the gravel road.
Yeah, it's there right now. It's immediate. But on the paved roads, it's a gradual deterioration.
Acute
So
versus chronic.
So like I had I had a, conversation with Kyle yesterday, and I talked to Ty about a week or so ago about it. It's overload creep. It just, things continue to get bigger. Industry continues to push more for heavier loads. The question is, well, what do you support? I said, well, I support whatever the people want. They just have to understand what the consequences are. Okay. And so that's why I'm here talking to you, because you're gonna help make this decision. I really think it is.
The thing that's concerning to me, Paul, is, look at, we just approved item number 8 for 1.1 million for one bridge. And you're talking $500 for 700 entries spread out across. So far, I mean,
And that's so far.
I just, the use and abuse, when the return we get,
Yeah.
I feel like we'll be upside down on our roadways.
Yeah,
I don't disagree.
I don't disagree with that statement either, Dave. It's just that we knew that bridge was gonna be replaced prior to this, so I mean, and that bridge will be built to a level that will withstand any overweight creep for at least 20 years, hopefully, but at some point in time, it's our gravels and, some of our earlier paved highways that are really gonna be affected by this, them ones that are paved in the 50s that don't have the cross section as established as well as some of the later ones, but if we do nothing, we get no money. And they're still gonna drive it, and it still comes down to enforcement. I mean, if we opt out, so even if we opt out on with the gravels, then people are probably gonna load to that 90,000 and get to the paved system, and how would we stop that? So we've been back in the corner, and there's no, it's just, you gotta almost opt in and just get the money you can, and that's.
Can you change your status on an annual basis?
Well, yes, you can. Yeah. I think,
Ms. Hayden?
The only question I have is, do we know yet how much of that $500 we will get? Because we're only gonna get a percentage of it, aren't we?
no, we don't, because if all 99 counties opt in,
But even
The
that
amount's gonna be
500, there's gonna be a percentage of the 500 that the state's gonna keep some of it. And so when Sherry collects $500, how much does she get to keep of the 500? That would be, because we're not talking $500 times 70, we're talking a percentage of 500 divided. Am I right?
so that,
Do you know that answer, Sherry? Okay. Nobody does then.
so the state, so as I understand it.
Okay.
Okay, is that the $500 will be collected and put into an account.
Okay,
75% of that is gonna be reallocated back to the counties. Three-fourths of that $500 gets allocated back to the counties. In a proportional, depending on how many counties are opting in. If you don't
Actually,
opt
about
in,
$3.75 if all 99 counties out of every 500 will get. So if we opt in and only 2 permits get filled, we'll get $6, $7. But I mean, that's the scheme. It'll be larger than I'm sure.
Yeah.
I personally, I mean, the jury's still out. We don't know how many people are gonna pay the extra 500, because there's a cost there.
Yeah.
There's a cost to the hauler to get that, to opt in to get that.
two costs.
Yeah, exactly.
Two costs.
So there's an additional cost. So we really don't know. I don't think it's gonna be a lot of money.
Do they pay that $500 every year also, then renew for $500 every year, then renew their
Tag.
title, and then they see that they have more and then you pay more? You really have to be a person that hauls a lot and wants to be over that lot, make that balance out, but not to opt in. I think we should opt in myself.
I would, as a farmer, I would pay that.
Yeah.
Just to save me one overweight ticket, even though
Yes.
I hardly rarely run over the 80,000. I don't like the wear and tear on my own equipment, but if you had that one that loaded in the fall and it was 88,000 thing, then you get overweight ticket because you don't have that $500 ticket. Well, that $500 ticket would have been cheap.
Yep,
Or the
as-
$500 permit would have been cheap.
As a gravel and old line hauler, I think we pay it.
Anybody else, Greg?
Paul, I guess, because what I was thinking is if you only do it on the paved roads, to me, then the only people that benefit are either the people passing through our county or the people that have farms on the county, and we're not giving the opportunity to the farmer who lives in the country to get to those paved roads. So to me, I guess it makes sense that if you're gonna do it, you opt all in and treat everyone in the county the same.
I'd agree with that.
Is it $500 per truck? So one company has to pay $500 on each truck, or one farmer that might have multiple trucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you just use the trucks that you paid the fine on to carry your heavier loads and your other trucks.
Well, that don't always
Always
work.
100 to skin a cat, you know?
And I want y'all to understand one thing. This only counts the trucks that with the tandem trailers and don't have a pusher on the truck. If you've already got the axles and the tires set up on the ground to haul 90,000 or 96,000, you're already covered by the state of Iowa all year long. This is only those that still have some farmers don't want to buy the bigger trailer, don't get in their gate holes or whatever reason they want to use. You know, I mean, it'll only cover those trucks. So just because you've seen a lot of trucks driving down a highway, count how many axles are underneath them. That guy probably isn't even going after this. You don't need it.
But
See what I'm getting
But
at?
Paul, I mean, what-
96,000 pounds can go 12% higher too.
Right, I was just gonna say, it's
Everything.
12%.
Everybody can get 12%.
Everything.
Also, this isn't a 90,000
It's
cap like the
12%,
old
right?
emergency.
So 96 carrying 107.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everything.
Crazy about that.
everything.
I feel like, and I know what you're saying, Doc,
Mhm.
but for the minuscule maybe money we get in, if that highway built 1950 wears out 20 years sooner, look at what that's gonna cost us.
Well, according to what Paul, one of his original statements is, just be aware of the consequences, what's gonna happen. We just gotta, as a board, as elected officials, you weigh in what your political risk is, I guess, you know.
So,
Because we are an ag community and, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong, there is no right or wrong answer to this, I don't believe at this point, but as an ag community, I think we would be doing our ag people a disservice by saying,
Not the highway on the road, you can fix
Can
that.
I ask if we don't opt in, do people that choose to have the higher limits have to avoid Crawford County and drive
they'll still
around
get
them?
answer. They do it now.
Well,
But if they get a ticket, it goes back to 80%, or it goes back to the legal limit, 80,000.
they do.
Mhm.
So. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
why speed, but sometimes.
An ordinance or laws only as good as enforcement.
Well, in a Prius,
We
nobody.
don't have
does.
to take action on this today.
Well, it's
No,
not a take action.
no,
Lots of
but we
things to
do,
think about though, really and
I
truly.
mean, nice if you knew if the governor was gonna go ahead and do that proclamation every fall, then you kind of,
You just don't know.
Right.
You know, and I think there's a lot of,
They'll never take that away.
there's a lot of
I
uncertainty.
don't think so either.
Yeah.
What aren't they taking away?
The
Governor's
governor's
proclamation.
Oh.
To go to
That
90,000.
emergency.
Okay.
Which is pretty much just ag commodities to help with the harvest, so, but we will have to take action, we gotta decide before the 1st of February, so we're gonna have to decide next week,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
yeah.
Gives us a chance to have
Yeah.
people talk
Put
to
on
us
your
about
agenda
their
next week.
opinions,
It'll
and
be
truck
on-
drivers
it'll be on
call us
next
and
week.
give their
Yeah.
opinions, and
Yeah,
gravel haulers and lime haulers.
yeah,
What's
See-
the damage on the bridges at 107,000?
well,
You're
that's
not
what
geared
we-
on, I'm talking about our county
Yeah.
gravel bridges, not
Yeah.
the highways.
that's what we have to evaluate, Ty, you know, we're gonna have to go look and see what, you know, how that impacts capacity. You know, because we have good bridges that might not have the capacity, so then we have to do is we have to put a sign up and post it. It's kind of like the special haul vehicle, remember that, you know?
We're gonna have to go back and repost all these
So we're gonna have to
bridges.
post, well, we wouldn't have to
Oh, yes, we
repost, we
will.
won't have to repost the ones that are posted, but there are perhaps other ones that are not, they just don't have the capacity for the extra load. So we may have to post some additional bridges. I don't know the answer to that question yet.
And will we have to have them tested before we would raise the posted limit?
Well, if we opt in, we're gonna have to work pretty fast to get everything addressed.
Okay,
Yeah,
lots of moving parts to this
Do you know
one.
what that would cost to post all those bridges?
More than the 500.
Yeah.
I mean, 5,000 to evaluate. I mean, that's the steps we have to go through. If we opt all in, we have to evaluate those bridges to determine whether or not they have the capacity to take an extra 12% load. And so that's, it's just a process you go through. And then if there's some that don't, we have to put a sign up and post it and hope that people follow it.
Did you bring us what those costs would be?
To post it, we're
Right.
probably looking at $400 or $500 a bridge to put the signs up.
And how many bridges?
Well, I don't know yet.
Okay.
We have to evaluate.
So
We're gonna look at
the cost to
118.
evaluate all the bridges would be
5,000.
5,000.
That's what we got from Kelly Burns. That's already got a number from them, so I don't know how many bridges. But you're looking at probably easily $400 to $500 a bridge, because you gotta put 4 signs up. You gotta put 2, 1 on each end of the bridge, 1 on each end of the mile. And so you got 4 signs, you say 100, 125 a piece. You're gonna have about $400.
Seems like
Yeah.
the number we had when we had the
Around putting them up.
special haul vehicle.
Right.
rocked them. It was that around 50,000 in it, across in the county,
Yeah,
all said and done.
yeah.
And that was a state law that we had no control over. Paul
Stemming
thought-
from the logging industry.
Yeah, Paul thought.
Yeah,
We
actually,
went down to Des Moines for it.
actually, this was, AGC was really pushing that so that they could, I'm sorry. I want to talk over people here, but AGC kind of drove that because they wanted to put more on their dump trucks. So these special haul vehicles that you see, instead of having a tandem axle dump truck, now you have one with 3, 4 axles back there or more. And so it's an end around because the interstate system only allows 80,000 pounds. So,
You'll give us a chance to hear what people think about it. We can visit it
yeah, well,
next
that's why I
week.
wanted to bring it here, because we initially opted out, so that's what you'll see right on the map. Because that was kind of a, just that, then the more you think about it, the more it's like, maybe the board needs to weigh in on this before we finalize this for the year. So I'm guessing there'll be lots of discussion about it.
I think so.
So again, I'll do whatever the people want, and then we just have to react to it and make adjustments accordingly. So.
Very good. Thank you, Paul. That was-
Roadside seating zone.
Yeah, every year I want to provide you kind of a summary of the number of acres and kind of what we did. So you can just take that and look at it if you want. You guys do a good job. They're all coming back. So, sorry, Craig. That's all good. And then this I want to make you aware of. It's actually today, but it's a TIF and tax abatement lunch and learn. If there was ever a wind turbine project that came up that you wanted to do it in urban renewal, it starts here in about an hour.
We all got emails about it.
Yeah. But I think you can probably
Can I zoom in?
do that on Zoom, but
I'm zooming.
That was a present for you.
okay, yep. Notification of that, so. And then just, when I mentioned the word overload creep earlier in our conversation, now they're allowing cranes, small cranes to go up to 24,000 pounds per axle, which is new legislation that took place as well. There's consideration of legislation that would allow over axle weights exceeding the state limit, which is 20,000 right now. That's the most you can put on an axle. So that kind of limits things a little bit, but in emergency situations that you'd be able to permit single trip permits. And we issue single trip permits for up to 400,000 pounds, but they have 20,000 pounds per axle. So this new legislation would allow those axle weights to go up as well. So.
Or a DOT guy, where you had to pull out a book to see what the legal rate is on what road and what time of day it is.
It's getting more complicated, but what you have is industry wanting to haul more.
The job done.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just what's driving this, is they're wanting to put more on.
Hard on it, okay.
And
And if you get the axles and the ground pressures right, but
yeah.
we're wanting to do it without spending the money to do it right. That's what we're wanting.
So anyhow, we'll talk more next week, and hopefully we can come to some resolution on that and move forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Lot thickens again.
Okay, back to our 10-10 items. Discuss and take action on the treasurer's semi-annual report. Madam Treasurer, please approach the table.
Making room for everybody, so I can.
As the state provides you. any
Yeah, you don't get
software.
one. Yeah, we only get, there should have been 5. You can have mine, I guess.
I just got
I'm
one.
innocent of
okay.
stealing.
I'm sorry. Maybe I was going on.
Probably still sitting on the copy.
Maybe. So basically, I don't have a whole lot of information on these. People come in with, the different departments come in with their checks and tell us where they want them receipted. We deposit them in, and then we come back and look at the bottom dollar to make sure that we are balanced, which page 3 shows that we are.
I always like it when you're balanced.
I'd like it when we're balanced as well.
So do not assign to the court group, is that just because it's just one big group? Anytime I see asterisks.
Well, I'm just, I guess I
don't
was
know.
thinking.
I
out
Can't
loud.
see the report from
I
where I
was
sit.
just thinking. out
Does that mean we haven't assigned it to a group yet, or do we have, because in my reports, that would be uncategorized,
I have to check on
not
that.
assigned to a court group. The 2 asterisks, you know, usually when I'm looking at a budget is something I'm supposed to
I can
note
check on
that
that.
it's not, kind of like undeposited funds, you
Matches
know.
that.
Profit and loss.
Total expenses. It's the same dollar amount as total expenses. 32,380,577.20.
20. So they just don't have a group assigned to them?
You asked me.
Well, it just seems not assigned report group. Usually, you know, in the report, the groups that, you know, feed into that bottom line. And
Yeah,
I didn't notice it on the report last time that they gave it to us. 'Cause it's not a big deal. I just thought it,
just probably our software,
yeah, okay,
Tyler.
Okay.
Yeah.
data issue, tracking issue. Okay,
So it's not intentionally on there.
No.
okay, all right.
My, just throwing this out, is that what we project to use out of fund balances, that 200? Your expenses versus your revenues, and when we, no, would that be showing that up, that we're taking, spent more than we took in, because we were planning on pulling fund balances down? Would that be any explanation of that?
I honestly don't know. I can try to do some research, but like I said, when
Maybe,
people come in with these, with their checks, they tell us where they want them deposited.
Is that the decision you guys made last year is to pull some of those fund
I don't
balances?
remember what, I'm sure we, you know, we always try to keep fund balances at a figure of where we're, you know,
Right.
I don't. remember.
Consistent. Do we need some questions answered here before we
Nope, I'm just.
vote?
So Sherry, it was brought up before about what percent do you think of like the license, state license fees does the county keep versus we have to send out?
5%.
We're gonna keep 5%.
I wish I could get, Tracy and Chris did that presentation for supervisors on what we get to keep, what you guys have to send to the state and what that bill, do you remember what that bill was? That Chris Raleigh was talking about raising the treasurer's fees that.
Fees. I've got his house file. I've got it written down in my notes from last week.
But that kind of addresses that, Craig. I thought that could really help our.
Yeah. If they
bottom
increase those
dollar.
fees, that will help us a lot, I think, because we get $10 more for convenience fee for any person that doesn't own property in in Crawford County. I'm looking at you and saying Charter Oak. Anybody that doesn't own property in Crawford County, we could charge them a $10 convenience fee to renew their license. And then they're also, it's been over 30 years since any of the other fees have been addressed for the title registration and other fees that are collected in our office. So there's a file right now down in Des Moines where they're trying to get those fees increased for money that the county would get to keep.
And with the, I know we're kind of getting off topic with your report here, but you could technically, if you're out of this county, buy a car or a truck at Team Ford, come up here and register and pay your.
Right now, you
user fee.
can do that if it's a contiguous county.
But if
So
you're,
if it's across county, that's what they're looking at, possibly opening it up
Say that
statewide.
again.
so anybody, you could be traveling through Denison and say, hey, I really like that pickup at Team Ford. And if you're from eastern Iowa, Clinton County, you could buy it here, comes right up to our courthouse and register it.
Can't do that currently.
Can't do that currently, but you'd get a $10. Is that right? $10
The $10 fee is for a driver's license.
driver's license.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
The
But I
others
just thought there
would
was a
be
user fee for being
a
out of
use
county.
tax. Yes, there is. They are increasing all of those fees. They're looking at getting them all.
Trying to
increased.
just allow people to do
Like
business
driver's
and then,
license and-
Right,
Yeah,
it'll be
across.
actually more convenient, but it'll be a little more expensive
right.
for that convenience.
Or is the, well, again, that's a whole debate, but is the state just increasing the fees and gonna keep the percentage the same?
They're not supposed to. They're supposed to be giving that back to the county because, and the reason they're looking at that, Kyle, is because if somebody like Dave said from eastern Iowa comes in here, it's our property tax dollars that are subsidizing the
Right.
employees and all of the money that it's costing to do that. So if you're coming in from Polk County, our property tax dollars are paying for you, for that service to be done, and we're not getting anything for it.
No, I understand, yeah, that thanks, but yeah, it's always been a crawl, bird under my saddle that, our employees, especially when Carroll shut down their
State- when
DOT
the state
station,
shut.
and we had to pick all that stuff up until they got their treasurer's office or whatever office they use to do their driver's license
Right.
stuff over there, we were just
So we
getting
can push our
bombarded
people back.
at the cost of our taxpayers.
Right, that was a ripple effect from the state
Yeah,
shutting that down.
they're good.
I'd entertain a motion to accept
I
the
make a
report.
motion to
I move we approve the treasurer semi-annual report. Second.
Bill Dart makes a motion. Mr. Schultz seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thanks, Sherry.
I'm sure.
Thank you, Sherry.
Can I have a report?
Sherry, you have this one here?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought I had it.
You want one back?
I can.
All right. Discuss and take action on liquor license, New Country Pumpkin.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Mr. Schultz makes a motion to approve.
Nobody wants them going out.
Ms. Hayden seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Okay. Discuss and take action. Mr. Langholtz, would you please come to the table?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jake?
So just, it was brought to my attention last week by Craig. I heard through the grapevine, so to speak, that there were some questions about the Board of Supervisors email. The one that you see at the bottom on the left-hand side beyond your own individual inboxes. And basically, when we first did Office 365, I was told that Microsoft groups were the way to go. There was that was it. That was going to be the end all be all. Microsoft was developing it. They were really pushing it hard regarding emails and things along those lines. We're finding out that Microsoft is kind of abandoning the email function of Microsoft groups because apparently it's not working out the way they want it to. In the Board of Supervisors email, you'll notice that you cannot create like a folder like you would traditionally do with your own emails, okay? Makes it harder to organize those emails, makes it harder to process them and look at them and have continuity with them, okay? Because you're always constantly having to search. So Terry brought it to my attention as far as asking about this, and I was looking at it as well. It's not really functioning in the correct manner that we're intending. So I'm kind of proposing to do one of two options. Either we change that into what's called a distribution list. Basically, what that amounts to is all those emails would funnel into one location and then it would hit everybody on that list, okay? And then segregate out, okay? I'm sure Craig is kind of familiar with that or heard that before in the past with his other business practices. But basically, all it is, that's all it is. It doesn't archive those emails. Well, let me take a step back. No archiving. I'm not going to talk about that process yet. But it's not an inbox, okay? It just goes straight to your individual emails, and that's the end of it, and you organize them how you see fit. It's a little bit harder to hold, or as far as business continuity is concerned. So let's say, we have a, rotation of, we always have it every 2 years. We have, elections with the Board of Supervisors, and sometimes they like to have continuity of those issues. So I'm advocating to do something called a shared mailbox, okay? Works similar to the same function as the current one. The difference is you can organize those emails. So if you have a folder for Tower Fund, yeah, I can show you here.
I think it'd be easier for some of us that are visuals.
So I'm talking about this guy right down here where it says under groups.
Okay.
I've shown Craig this, but it's all the way underneath on the left-hand side there. You can see it there.
How did you get there?
You had to open this up, because you don't have this pin to the side, probably so you can see better. So, but
Probably because I don't.
Just getting handed around.
but if you highlight this,
Okay.
okay, you highlight that, you can see all the emails that have been going out to that inbox, okay? But you can't really organize them. You can't do anything with them,
No.
okay? They're just there. And yes, you can, if you want to, you could probably perform a search, like, and do keyword searches off of it at the top
You
there
can.
with that specific email. But if you, let's say you wanted to have a specific folder for Tower and you wanted to
Yes.
dump all your emails for Tower into that folder, you can't do that with this, okay? With a shared mailbox, it operates similarly, but you can do that organization.
So what's it gonna cost to?
It doesn't cost anything,
So then what's the process to do it?
not much. I mean, I just have to do it. I just wanted your guys' approval to proceed to do
Please
that.
do,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Because I think it would be better than,
So we can get side folders for your emails.
yeah, well, yeah, as far as for that specific box, okay? But that's the one I'm advocating for. Now, there is an option where you could go a different way, which was the distribution list, okay? There is no inbox with that. It just goes straight to your emails, okay? Problem with that is I think you struggle with continuity. Let's say, your email trains, who responds to what, how's it being responded? You kind of have some issues with that.
That's what I'm asking. That's my question. So this, I always assumed that where it said this little thing, that was when you clicked on that, separate emails went to all 5 of them.
Well, they were actually all funneled into that one
So
inbox.
I've never ever looked in that inbox.
Yeah, I probably never changed it to look into it, no. So,
So,
but it was never publicly available either.
yeah,
So, and that's the next thing I was gonna talk about, making it publicly available. So the citizens can email the Board of Supervisors, it gets dropped into that inbox, you can see those things and you can move forward and see the continuity. There's one aspect that I would have to train you on, and that is to change your personal to that, when you're responding, change it to Board of Supervisors instead of Gene Hayden or Dave or something, and that's a really easy function, okay? And then if something that you're dealing with directly, you just use your own individual emails. So.
sounds like it's
Just
complicated.
like to make it simple, I think, for the public to email us.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then this way you guys can, and furthermore, if you can see, if let's say Ty responds to an email, you can see it in that inbox and say, okay, this is where Ty has been talking about this. Or if Kyle has an opinion, he can actually throw his on there and you'll see the whole train. reply the whole bit. So
Okay,
that's what I'm kind of leaning towards the shared mailbox, because you're not gonna see that train necessarily if you do the list.
I lean towards the shared.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's not too much work and trouble for you to try to simplify things.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like anybody was really checking that email. As far as that board one down at the bottom, it's gonna show up in the same, there's no confusion here. It's gonna show up the same. The difference is that one, you're gonna be able to organize those emails, okay? You can't create a folder right now in that. And I propose that you allow you to create yourself a folder. I'm gonna have some trouble trying to get continuity regarding what was in there, but it doesn't sound like anybody was really looking at it anyways. So,
As if it come directly to me.
yeah,
Yep,
so,
no,
Okay,
You know,
well,
like Terry sent out an email this morning at 7:30, and
yeah,
it came to each one of us personally, and it went into that.
gotcha. I have to look to
supervisor
see,
group.
I'd like to take a look at that to see why it did both. So,
you can look at mine,
so,
because if anything is messed up.
Well, because I sent it to Board of Supervisors,
well, I'm trying to understand how it,
which is my
operates.
list,
right,
Your group.
my
your group.
distribution list.
okay,
Your
so,
list just has our individual
Yeah.
emails in it.
Yeah,
You want,
but
Okay.
yeah, you take this one as
you
your
want like
test
an
copy.
action or you
I
just?
just want, get your approval, we don't, it's not like a resolution or anything, I just want
Right.
your approval, to say, yes, let's go with the shared
Approval given.
mailbox.
do what you gotta do. Make
Okay.
it, make it simple.
Yes.
You can take this with you and make sure
That's
it's
why
ready
we
to
hired
go.
you.
Oh, I won't need it, I can do it all in the back end.
So basically now I have two emails I gotta, or two mailboxes I gotta watch to do the
Yep,
same.
you got
damn
your
thing.
personal and you got the board of supervisors, that's correct.
Yeah, more redundancy. Thank you, appreciate it.
So,
Okay,
all right,
let's see what I've been missing this whole time.
any additional questions about that?
There will be,
Okay.
trust me.
More to come, okay.
Our normal emails will still pop in our own
Yep.
box, so.
If someone emails you directly, you're gonna get it, okay?
And if for some reason I wanna look there for really, I mean,
If there's like, if a citizen has an issue, they can open up an issue with the board that way. So in this way, everybody gets visibility of it,
Great,
yeah,
so,
love it.
all right,
Thanks, Jake.
yep, no problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jake. All right. Discuss, take action on the 1035 item. Employee wage publication for 2022.
make a motion to approve the wages for publication. These would be the wages that be publicized that with the weight increases that,
That's what came.
No, it won't. These are
These are the
22
current-
wages.
oh,
These are
22,
W-2 wages.
W2 wages. sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
That was what was
That
on
was our
here.
list, that was in the.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
thanks for clarifying.
no problema.
So we need to,
Okay.
Second.
Who made the
It
motion?
says it right there.
Kyle made a
Kyle did.
motion. Kyle made a motion to accept the publication. Ozark, second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Chair votes aye.
great.
Citizens input. I got a question before we get to citizens input. For our
Attorney,
Martha,
yeah, good idea.
we had where we got our cart ahead of our horse here. Paul had something on here for a motion to approve, letter for the raise grant. Is that the one we were working on?
No.
No, it was the,
It was
the
number
public
4.
hearing one.
Yeah, it was in the.
Yeah, it was a-
garbage.
well,
It was
excuse me,
on
the
his
public hearing.
agenda.
and we had public hearing listed on the agenda, but we didn't have the resolution, vote on the resolution published, but we voted on it. And we decided that we probably shouldn't have done that. Is there any special procedure we should have went
They
through?
did a table action.
Yeah.
But should have, sorry, go ahead.
Are you needing a resolution prepared?
No,
No,
no.
just asking the procedure.
If we
Just-
voted on it and it wasn't on the agenda, we want to basically erase it. Is there a procedure or?
I don't know that you need to erase it, but I would properly reset it and do it again in the correct order.
We won't need to redo the public hearing just to vote on the resolution, correct?
Correct, yeah, you've had the public hearing, then just set the vote on the resolution.
Very similar to what we did with the Kenwood property, December,
Yep, keep your public hearing, you've got that
17th,
one in the books, but
Okay.
then set next time for the discuss take action on.
Okay, so just set it on the agenda
So is
next week.
tabling the proper action to rescind a resolution or rescind that motion? Or should it be rescinding?
I'd have to check Robert's rules as
I was looking through it, but I couldn't find it.
the relationship between tabling and rescinding,
Right,
because that's a lot more technical than I have.
Dan,
it's okay.
But I can look into that and get back to you.
Dan needs it for his article.
I
can't write it because they didn't do it.
I will look that up when I get back to the office and get it to Terry.
Thank you.
thank you, Martha.
That's the first time we've done that one
Thank you.
particular.
Okay, citizens input. Mr. Broderson, would you like to approach?
Well, sure. I'm actually just here to talk about the Fair Board.
Glad to have you.
We're not on the agenda, I know, but we can never get a person free to get up here at the time, so. I talked to Kyle, I said, can we just come to citizens input? I'll be up tomorrow, and, cause we did do our letter for our request for the
Yep.
funding, you've probably seen that, and I know it's almost the end of January here, so. Just updating you on the fair. We have some new members that are officers now. Some of us have been officers forever, kind of holding back the reins a little. And it's always good to have new blood in there. And they put a request for more money, as you probably seen that, you know, and I kind of explained to them, well, let's be thankful for what we do get. But we are, like you said, we're still, the letter says we're one of the only free fairs to get into in Iowa, and you guys well know what things are costing. It's crazy. But things that we have done to offset it, you know, you guys have all been out there. The booth rentals are all free now, which takes out of our pocket, but people are there. And our varied industries buildings are full now. So we're trying to get new vendors, and these gals that are on here, they're really digging to get new food vendors, different things. And things we have updated, varied industries has got new doors on both ends, roll-up doors. We got one more door to do there. We just talked to Farm Bureau. They got a grant to do some work to that Morton building on the south end. Probably a new door and some upkeep, because they're pretty much the ones that use it all the time. So another project we're talking about is a new, where the scale is. We're in the process of putting a new scale house building in there, basically for the purpose of handicap accessible bathrooms by the show ring. We've been working on this for 3-4 years now. I think we were talking about it back when Terry was on yet, but we really don't have a place for them people to go to the bathroom by the show. We do have handicap bathrooms up by those buildings, but now we're kind of shifting our gears to putting something together for a building down there, taking the old scale house out, putting a new steel building in there with handicap accessible bathrooms. Now, there was talk of making it a storm shelter, and I said, well, when you get into that, that's a whole new ballgame. Because everything is just, it's gotta be this, this, and this. So we're in the process of that with funding it. I'm gonna apply for the foundation grant. Gary Volker helps us do that. That will be, it's gotta be in by the end of January. That'll be used for that project, and Tom Hass and I are working on trying to get what this building is gonna cost us. We are doing a breakfast fundraiser coming up here in March. That'll go towards that. I mean, it seems right now that all the money is going towards this hog barn redoing roof. You've seen it 100 times. And that is a good project, and we've got roughly 90-some thousand raised so far sitting there for this project. But when we started this project, the building price versus what it is now, I mean, we're looking into that to see, hey, is this really feasible, what we want to do here? Or can we fix what we have, make it better? You know, those options. We did last year change all the hog pens. If you haven't been in the hog barn, we were gonna buy all new pens. Well, I got that price. That didn't happen. So we went in and changed every one where you just walk through the door instead of having to climb over the fence. We did that last year, got that done. We put a whole new breaker box in our hog barn because it melted during the fair. So that's all done now, and we got some money yet for some fans in the show ring that we're doing, just kind of updating you on what we're doing out there. We're gonna pour concrete access to get into the Varied Industries building. It's always been a problem getting handicapped people in there. We're just gonna come out with some pads, you know, to make it easier for a wheelchair or handicap to get in.
Roll up doors, that'll be a lot easier.
Oh, them other doors, I didn't, well, we gotta be careful because we use it for storage, you know, so with the roll up door, and roll up doors are hard to get right now. If you have been trying to get one, it's not easy.
Everything's hard to get.
So the Morton building will have a roll up door, a new concrete pad. The Varied Industries will have a pad, and then we're looking to expand this bathroom deal because it's been in the works. We need a new bathroom
That's
down there.
important.
And then the one we got's bad.
It's
We will probably leave it, but
long ways from here over to here, and if you're already
Right.
disabled, that's an inconvenience that really.
so that's kind of what they were asking on this letter. It wasn't just to say, hey, we want more money. It's,
Going towards.
we appreciate what we get. If there's any way to increase anything to maybe offset some of this building cost. I know some of the talk was, well, we could maybe help with that new building, which is great, but I foresee that in a 2 or 3 year down the road deal here, because you can't just come up with
No,
these monies in 2 years. You know, this building, we think we have probably, right now, we've probably got 50% of it. We probably could have raised, you know, so if there's anything you guys can do to help with that, that would be wonderful. If we go back to the original, what we get from you guys, that's great too, because it takes so much to put on the fair. The carnival's another 3,000 or 4,000 this year from last year, which we get from tourism. We do apply, that offsets some of that. You know, we still are paying the premium money out of, we still call it supervisors money, but you don't have to ear tag it that way for the kids. They do have to turn in a record book in order to get the money. Before it was just hand them a check. Well, that changed. You have to turn in your record book, you get your premium money. So that's kind of where we're at, just updating things, trying to fix stuff. We know the new building has to be done. I mean, eventually, or it should be the hog barn building, but there's also all this other stuff that still has to be done. We can't put all of our eggs towards this show ring, you know, this bathroom thing, and there's always stuff to do.
So you guys have,
We're going. Go ahead.
Brian, I gotta, say and give the fair kudos that you always are working on something.
Yeah,
It's always, whether it's horse barn, the cattle barn, the hog barn, the Morton building,
yeah,
it's something, but yet you're always conscious of what it's gonna cost. And you look at, and we don't have to go very far, but you look at the attendance of our fair versus some of these other ones,
these
and,
close ones.
it's pretty amazing what's put on.
And I thank you for that, and going with free booth rental, who would have thought? Yeah, it
Yeah.
cuts us $3,000-4,000, but you get people, and carnival, everybody says, oh, why do you need a carnival? Well, if you don't have the carnival, mom and dad ain't coming because they're not bringing your kid. But this stuff is all costing us more money than what it has in the past. And carnivals, I think there's only 3 now, 3 or 4 that can operate in Iowa. I mean, they're thin, and all these dates are on top of each other. Right. So those are big things, and like Dave says, it's hard. One thing we did is we used to hire somebody to mow the grass. Well, the last year that was $15,000. So now 2 of us do it on our own
Oh, thank
to
you.
try to.
Thanks for doing it, Ms. Hayden.
One question, this foundation grant that you talked about, what foundation, is that just the Dennison Foundation? or
It's
is
it's Crawford County.
County.
I think it's casino money.
Oh, okay,
It's-
okay, then I-
We've applied every year. Last year, for some reason, our email that Gary sent it in got put into their junk file.
Aw.
So we got 0 and they felt terrible about it.
Oh,
So
maybe
you
this year
know
you'll get
Volker.
double. Maybe
Yeah,
this-
Volker's like, we need to, and I said,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but the thing with that money though is you gotta be careful. If you get 20,000 for this bathroom, you have to spend 20,000 on this bathroom. You can't just.
Yep, oh, we got 20,000.
We kind of got into that with this new building. We had $25,000 to put new dirt in. Well, tear the other one down. Well, we got the dirt here. Well, now you got to spend 150 to build a building. So you got to be careful.
Right.
I had actually two questions if I could just, so when you're like putting concrete down, do you put out that, volunteers, or is that a company that, how do you get that job
We-
done?
Well, most of it we do ourselves.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
we have worked with, a lot of times we put bids out, and we at least try to get 2 bids. But like KR at 10 Point has been really good with
Sure.
us. he actually gave us a $10,000, like a donation that we put in. So he said that can be used for anything,
Okay,
you know, and it's just sitting here riding in a deal at Edward Jones, I think, and,
okay.
but, and that don't weigh, you know, a lot of times we put a bid out and you don't get a lot back. You know,
Well,
it's hard
small
to find,
jobs and it's hard,
and we try to keep it in Crawford County.
right, but
You know.
I feel like some businesses, if you put out there, they may donate the labor, and you just have to pay for the concrete, or,
Right.
you know, if you just put it out there as a community.
We get a lot from a couple different 4-H groups. We
Okay.
put it out there and then, man, here they come.
Yeah.
So that's worked well.
Mr.
So I was
Dozar?
just curious, piggyback on what Dave said, but do you have attendance records? I mean, what attendance has been in the last 5 years?
We usually try to estimate it, you know, because you guys have stood at the gate. I mean, unless you stand there and
Right.
this way and that way. You know, I think our report we turned in this year was roughly 20 to 25,000 for the week. But it's hard to know we have so many entrances into the fair,
Yeah,
you know,
Right?
some people come 3 times a day.
well, and then back and forth to eat and at night, it's hard. We turn in 25,000, but we don't, I mean, it's hard to know. There could be way more than that. I think this last year was probably one of the better ones because of the booth rental. They
Right.
come out to see stuff.
I want to piggyback on that, because if there's nothing to see, you go once, and you don't have to go
You don't
back.
come back.
But if there's a whole lot to see, and there's a carnival, and there's food, you're gonna go every day. Okay.
Sure, 25,000, and it might be me going every day, would count
Right,
5
could be.
times.
Right.
Right,
Do we have somebody physically standing there? No, we don't. You know, we've talked about that. Besides our security guys, you know, it's hard back and forth. And
Right.
we've discussed putting the whole fence around the fairgrounds at one time, you know, and which is, you know, how expensive that
oh,
is.
jeepers.
Furthermore, to keep people out of there from tearing around, but then the guy could control it a little better, but it just doesn't, I mean, the price doesn't justify.
Right.
Cal, do you have anything?
I just had, you know, we're, as board of supervisors, we're under code, we're required, but we fund the fair. We can do a special project and
Right.
take that additional funds toward a special project request. And I would say, you know, we help fund the vamping or remodel of the horse barns. I think we could probably piggytail some of them funds right onto that. And the last thing, you know, you said you had 90,000 roughly sitting in, I would put that in a CD or something. You're getting 4% money right now.
Mhm.
At least get that money working for you. I mean, it's
It's a good idea.
$3,600 a year. That'd be the cheapest, easiest fundraiser you could do, just by telling the bank, shove it in a CD.
Yeah.
I know Vela's got one right now, and I'm not promoting any bank, but
Right.
came to me. They've got one where it's a savings account with just about 4%. You can, if you need it again the next week, you can take it out, but you can leave it in there. So that's actually a pretty good one
Having
there.
the penalties with the
No
CD.
penalties then. Yeah.
There is another group of people that are actually trying to spearhead that fundraiser and it takes some pressure off of us. And they're doing all right. I mean, it just takes, I mean, you have a breakfast and you make $5,000. Well, yeah, that's awesome. But then you're pushing it towards a $400,000 building, you know, and it's kind of, so that's a good idea to put what we have.
At least do something with it, now that there's some money and interest, you know.
Yeah.
But I basically just wanted to come and update you where we were, what we were thinking. You know, that request was for more money and that's kind of why, you know, to help with some of these projects. We're very appreciative for what we do get from you guys regardless, because without it, we can't, it wouldn't happen
Yeah.
without you guys, the city with, and then the other donations, it wouldn't be there. Because that, we work on donated money. So, and if you want to wait here, I don't know when you do your budget, if you want to wait until we get some sort of a building idea, I can always come back, show you guys what we're doing, so you kind of know what's going on too. It's gonna be within the next couple weeks.
Sounds
You
good.
know,
No, that's not a
Work on
bad
the
idea.
budget as you speak.
you can get the
Stay in
budget and
touch,
then
yeah.
I'll be in touch with you. I know it's crunch time on budget here, so.
Yep.
But anyway, I just wanted to update you guys where
Appreciate
we're
it
standing,
very
what
much.
we're doing.
Thank you,
Kind of
Brandon.
discuss our proposal, why it's a little more money. And it's just because of things have gotten more expensive, as you guys well know.
Mhm.
So
Appreciate it.
whatever you can do, we appreciate. So anyway.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Brian.
Martha, did you have something else?
Nope.
Hanging out.
It's like the other once in a while.
Oh, there you are.
Well, latest and greatest. So here's a fact sheet on what I was talking about, the
Oh,
12%
nice.
overload. And on there, and I can email this to you, there's a link where you can go and you can take a look at any county.
Oh,
And I did find out that the February 1st deadline is just for those normal updates. Okay,
Oh.
it doesn't apply to this.
Okay.
Okay, so we would have time to evaluate it. But if you look at some of the counties that opted in on the map, it's almost all red. They just took a segment, 3 miles, 4 miles, just opt in.
Just opt in.
Just got it. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so,
It doesn't matter if you're 100% opted.
because they're partially opted in, so if you take a look at it, I mean, it's like, okay, where's the road at that they actually allowed you to drive on? Because it's almost all
We put it
red.
like from,
Right,
the
you
4
can do that
miles
from
from
Iron to Bowie.
Why just,
somewhere in the center, somewhere in the
Yeah.
center of the county, so there's no legal way to
No way
get
to get
there.
there.
yeah,
There's no
so.
legal way to go from there.
We're open.
So here, and I wanted to share this with you, because this is the fact sheet right from the DOT,
I like
Okay.
that.
okay? And give you time, we have time. Right now, we're all red, okay? And we can change it anytime. Okay, so this is different than that annual update that they wanted us to either decide, but I found out that it's actually something that's a little more
I have a
dynamic.
feeling the rules will change real fast when they see a bunch of counties only have 2 miles of highway you can drive that. It
I
defeats
don't
the
know.
purpose of what I think they're trying
But
to.
we'll send a message
Accomplish,
to
but-
them anyway.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of people trying to figure out, and Gene had a good question, what do we do with our bridges if we do opt in? Well, we probably should get them all posted before we do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the best way. But now knowing that there's this flexibility with the date, that gives us a lot more time to think about it, talk about it, digest it. Right now, we're all red, 100% all red, so we can change. Okay,
Well,
Sounds good,
So-
thank
and
you.
go to that link. So there's a link, I'll email that to all of you, so then you can go, there's a link on the bottom of the front page, near the bottom right side, there's a link that you click on, shows you every map in the state, or every county in the state.
thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, sir.
Harvest proclamation.
Any other citizens input? Count it then. I don't see anybody on Zoom making noise. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
From Mulbauer and makes a motion, Ms. Hayden second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Trucks and combinations transporting raw agricultural products are allowed to operate in excess of their registration weight by up to 25%.
Matt.
That's a registration.
So
That's
your
all.
80,000, you can go up to.
No, that's a whole different deal.
Okay,
All right,
Lots
see,
of
like a lot of
balance
times,
sheets,
you'll,
some
on
negatives,
commercial
cash.
vehicles, they'll register for Iowa.
My math.
You gotta register the max amount in
You
other states.
started
In
out
Iowa,
with,
like
we'll
you
just
could
talk
register
round numbers,
73,000,
50,000, and you only brought
then
in
you go 25 over.
526,000.
which was
And
figured out.
so
You
your
see what I'm saying?
revenue is
And
that
that's kind of a way to
total
help you save a
expenses,
little bit.
that's
Is
of
right,
that-
so if you register a higher weight,
101,000
your registration's
more.
higher.
Yeah.
I see, so this allows that
Because it's the
farmer
only one
to register at a
that
lower weight.
has that negative
Here,
there.
25%.
So-
Yeah, what is that, the W?
That
What I gotta
particularly
fill out all the
interests me,
time,
right?
if you end up with a
BBW,
balance of
It's just like
150,000.
on your.
Part of that's
it's what we
probably
call the
because of that
bingo card
loan we
deal.
do.
I mean,
We
it's got
do that end of
where
year
you're listed. I don't
loan
know if you guys, what
balance.
your farm permits look like, but
It
But
goes.
why
we got all the
would
states
that
listed
Show up.
and 80,000,
and give them a
80,000, and
Oh.
states that you can only go
You'd have to,
80,000,
you
but
know,
like
when
Nebraska where you
it's
can go to
Yeah,
96 with our
it's
triples
like
and our.
similar.
Or just say 90.
But
You'd have it for 90,
This-
you'd be registered for 90
Like
there,
that.
but in Iowa, you could actually register at 73 and it'd take you up to that 90.
Because how can HIPAAs be the
You know
only
what I mean?
thing in a negative?
But it's only in Iowa that works that way. Just to give our in-state people a little break over the outstate.
Two negatives.
It looks to me like the harvest proclamation will still come into play.
100 plus is
They're
equal
harvest.
to negative.
You're right.
Some magical world.
So they look like they're just figuring it in, right?
Why?
Yeah. I mean, you-
It has
looks
to do
me
with
like
that
the
loan,
harvest
it has to.
proclamation
It does-
still
but
gotta
see,
come into
I hate
play.
to-
So
you know,
the
that's
governor's
just a-
on
Let
it.
me, I'll pull up
That's
the,
kind of a rude question to ask somebody off, but anybody else?
oh, the answer.
Well, I don't want to
Exactly
do
what you said. It's just pick a section right in the middle of
Ask
the county.
us. I'll look. I wanna
Because-
talk to Kyle about it.
Because when the farmers need it the most is when during the proclamation time period anyway.
Probably wise decision, just to opt in a small portion and get your money.
Kyle, you were asked about HIPAAs, you know, the money that they make. I didn't want to bring this up, but I don't understand how they could start with a balance, only bring in 526, only have 50,000 in revenue.